Welcome back, everyone, to Lesser Known Operators. I'm your host, Nicholas Allen, and my guest today is Jeremiah Wilber. He is Jeremiah Blackbeard on Instagram, a ghetto vaquero. Hope I said that right. Retired Green Beret from the 3rd and 10th Special Forces Group. He is also a mountain man and the founder of War Party Movement and the co-founder of War Party Ranch. I'll have links to his socials and websites in the show description. Today's episode is brought to you by the Precision Wellness Group and Dr. Taylor Bosley. Precision Wellness Group helps you fuel your momentum through bioidentical hormone therapy and evidence-based personalized telemedicine. Dr. Taylor Bosley is a board-certified physician, a U.S. Army veteran, and a former Green Beret. So he knows where you've been, where you want to go, and how to get you there. And he's an actual doctor who can prescribe you actual medicine. That's a bonus. So if you have been thinking about hormone replacement therapy, testosterone replacement therapy, TRT, HRT, peptides for a while now, or just looking into, look no further than Precision Wellness Group and Dr. Taylor Bosley. I'll have links to their website and socials in the show description, along with Jeremiah Wilber, War Party Movement, and War Party Ranch. I do appreciate you guys. Please remember to like, subscribe, share, comment, pass these episodes along. Thank you for listening. Leave us a review and enjoy the show. Wilber, welcome to Lesser Known Operators, man. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. You've been following me for a while. You've got some great images on your Instagram. I'm always jealous. You got the perfect pictures for Instagram. They're always
Instagram's all fake,
fresh.
so it's all props and just fakeness, you know. No, I'm definitely blessed. I've been doing some cool shit. I like to have adventures and yeah, so I definitely do some cool stuff.
It looks like it, man. Are you, let's see, by your own definition, are you as close to a modern cowboy as you can get these days? Or is there even another level deeper?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say no, I'm definitely not a cowboy. I don't call myself a cowboy in that regard because I grew up in a family that was, generations of cowboys on my native side, on my mom's side, and my dad's side. But now when I go work for ranches, those guys are full time. They live on the ranch. That's all they do. They're working, sometimes 7 days a week. I don't do that. What they call day work. So I basically 1099 contract to ranches. So I go up to places and work for 2 or 3 days at a time, maybe a week at a time, whatever. So I'm not full time. I'm not every single day like just waking up in the grind. Those guys are on a different level, and those guys and gals that do that, those families that do that, it's really cool to be a little part of it, day working, because they're the ones who feed America, and it's just the toughest, grittiest people you can think of. And you do the coolest shit and no one sees, like no one cares. And it's a lot like being in special forces to me, because there's no such thing as inclement weather when you're a Green Beret, and there's no such thing as inclement weather when you're a cowboy, so you have to take care of your animals just like you take care of soldiers. All the livestock comes first before people do, in a sense. Obviously there's life, limb, or eyesight, but when it comes to, when it comes to like take the actual accomplish the mission, it's those cows. It's what you're working on. So definitely, I am not a cowboy by any means. I've definitely had a chance to have a lot of really cool mentors and work for some really cool outfits. But again, I'm like a National Guard cowboy. That's how I describe myself. So I like, 1 week in a month, 2 weeks in the summer. That's the kind of cowboy I am.
Ghetto vaquero.
Yes, sir.
That's everything has a professional level, but those guys they're living out there. I mean, to a certain extent, they're talking about working with the cows, being out on the farm, living the whole life. And it's not fake. That is what they do 24/7. And there's a difference between some of those things and some of the other things that you see on TV or the portrayals in Hollywood.
Yeah, absolutely. They only show you the cool stuff, like even Instagram is like hard. People will say like post more cowboy shit. And I'm like, I have two hands. The first thing I'm worried about is doing my job.
It's just looking around,
really
going,
hard
what the
job.
fuck?
Yeah, I'm like, sometimes you can wear like I have the little glasses, or you see guys with GoPros and stuff, but it's hard to know when like action's gonna happen or something's gonna happen. So a lot of the stuff you'll see will be like in arenas, and they know they're gonna rope something, so they're filming it for their buddies or whatever. But everybody wants to see the action shots and all that. But the reality is, like, for me as a day working cowboy, I'm there to help accomplish a job. So I spend most of my days, just trotting, just in a long trot, through sagebrush, up and down mountains, searching for cattle, finding them, pushing to a certain area, whatever that task is for that day. But a lot of times you're just out there by yourself, just you and your horse, which is why I love it so much, because it's just such a connection to nature. It feels like you rewind time like 200 years, every time your right foot hits the stirrup and you sit in that saddle. And that's how most of my days go when I'm working. But for the guys that are, full time, they might not even get on a horse the whole week. And then the last day of the week, they have to get on horses because they're young and try to freshen them up or whatever. But most of their week would be like, fixing fences and just doing like manual labor type of work. Maybe they received a bunch of like all the hay for the winter or whatever. So they're loading and unloading that stuff. So there's just a lot of work that people don't see, that obviously Western movies or Hollywood or anything, it's just there's no way to make it look cool. So people always forget that, like we always say, like all the sayings that you'll see kind of in operator memes and the funny shit where it's like, everybody wants to be a gangster until it's time to be a gangster. And there's like a dude shooting like an 84 or a Carl Gustav or something. And it's the same way. It's like everybody wants to do that until they really do it and see how long the days are, how hard it is. And then obviously like the full-time guys, you know, they don't make that much money. I mean, people think these ranchers and these cattle ranchers and all these cowboys have a lot of money because they have horses and stuff. People see how expensive horses and livestock are. The reality is, most people see kind of the rich cowboys, the weekenders, the people that have professional horse, sport horses and compete at a very high level. That takes a lot of money. And then the other side of it is you'll see, the family owned businesses that have been there for generations, the cattle ranches. Those people don't have a lot of money and they don't make a lot of money. So there's a big misconception, especially you watch a show like Yellowstone or something where you literally have, multimillionaires running a ranch and everything's fancy. The reality is it's never like that. Everything's broken, old. It's all 100 years old. It's falling apart. I mean, you're making do with what you got. Those guys have to fix everything. They teach themselves to weld and shoe their own horses. And I mean, anything that they need to do, they have to be self-sustainable. So because of how much I respect, how much I know they do and what's not glamorized, like what you're talking about, is the reason like I don't call myself a cowboy at all.
No. It's like the iceberg, right? You only see the little bit on top and all that other. You
Yeah,
can say that with like commitment to any profession I mean, we spoke before, the jobs in SF, those staff jobs, they're all still there. Just jobs of a group sitting at a desk, doing the paperwork, the backside support, everything. That's all that stuff still there. And you're right. Instagram, they tend to put up just the best stuff. I try and I'm making so much stuff. I'm just going, yeah, this is just me going through the process. Like if it's not perfect, that's fine. It's
right.
fine. Like
Yeah, no,
I'm
for
just
sure.
doing this whole thing and documenting it. But yeah, for the most part, everybody wants to see the cool stuff, but nobody wants to do SEER 100 on their laptop, when they've already been to SEER C.
Yeah,
That
exactly.
one always sticks out in my mind. People are like, oh, you guys don't have to do the stupid stuff. I'm like, I fucking did the online version of
Yes,
SEER after I
yes.
went to SEER. So um, it's, it's still a first world problem
It's
for
still the
as
army is
worth.
what I.
It's
It's
still
still
the
the
army.
army is what I always tell people. It's still the army. Doesn't change.
No. Oh, you said go back in time 200 years. That must be just, there's I imagine, no cell service at points. Nobody bother you. You're just out there on a horse, trotting around. Happened for a long time and just kind of everything melts away. That's got to be super relaxing and rewarding because I had Sticky Green Beret on and he goes, man, it's just great. Everybody's out there just working. There's no distractions, nothing pulling you away. Everybody's working towards the same goal. And at the end of the day, you feel like you accomplished something.
Absolutely. And that, my favorite thing about it is that, two things that I get from it. One is that connection to nature. Your teammates with this animal, this horse. You're the team leader, but like your teammates, right? Like it has a mind of its own. You become more and more proficient with your horsemanship and your riding abilities, your roping abilities. Um, and it's something that like just like being in the military, where as a professional soldier you're constantly working towards those goals to be better and better at things. So it's the same in that environment, and a lot of times, obviously that just comes through experience, right? So the guys who have been doing it for years and years and years are going to be way better because they just do it every single day. um, but it's that connection to nature, like you say, you're out there by yourself, or even if you're out there with a bunch of other guys, you can see them and you kind of riding together or whatever. The sounds you hear, I mean, it's so cool, man. And that you're not around vehicles and cars, and so
The
guys who
lack
like
of
to,
sounds you hear too, the lack of sounds, just
yes,
all that
absolutely.
shit that we hear as
Yeah.
background noise, it's gone,
Yeah.
and you're out there and you're just
Yeah.
listening to nature.
So, because like fortunately for me, I've always been like I do a lot of stuff outdoors, whether it's backcountry skiing or hunting, or I'm always outside in the mountains. Um, so that wasn't new, but a new perspective on a horse. It's just like I said, man, I can't describe it. Like it's so freaking cool to cover country on a horse. So there's that aspect of it, that healing properties and powers that like horses have. That connection to humans is really cool. There's that, and then as like a team guy, excuse me, my favorite thing is that what I loved about being in special forces was you can fake the funk in a few industries in life, right? And like you can run your mouth all you want, you can be Billy Badass, but we're gonna find out real quick, like as soon as you get to the range, right? Or in fighting, it's like, yeah, you run your mouth all you want. We're gonna find out real quick when you get in the ring. And cowboying's the same way. It's like people who aren't humble and are cocky and have this attitude or run their mouth or fake being a cowboy. A lot of that like stolen valor stuff. You run into people who say they were this or did that in the military. There's people who do the same thing in the cowboy world, and you can't tell because they're just running their mouth at the bar or whatever. But when you're out on horses and we're out working, you get to see who's a cowboy and who isn't when that rope gets tight. Like things change, and I love that you have to be so humble about it because you're working with animals, so nothing ever happens exactly the same. Everything's always hectic, and um, those are my two favorite things because it just translates so well to me about being a Green Beret, being in the military. I was always outside. I love being in the field and training and doing. I love the army, man. Like since I was a kid, I was like covered in camouflage and just fucking playing that I was a ranger or whatever. Like that was what I did, man. So for me, the army was just like this ultimate, like what I knew I was gonna be as a kid, but like it was just so fun to me, man. um I never complained about the other stuff guys thought was stupid or whatever, whether it was obstacle, as long as it made sense, like physical fitness wise and things like that. But obviously not fucking painting rocks and some of the other dumb shit we've done in the past in the military. When I
Cutting
say
grass with
stupid shit,
scissors.
yeah, but I mean overall, that just being outside, so that being able to do that on a horse and be able to work with guys, you have this like team camaraderie, a huge ego check. It's just a lot like team life, if you will. And then at the same time, the reason why I say team life, especially as a Green Beret, is because, you know, we expect guys to graduate the Q course regardless of their rank, their experience, 21 years old, 22 years old, whatever. And now they're a staff sergeant. You hand them a government card, you hand them all this shit. They've had their hand held the entire time through the Q course, couldn't even take fucking creatine. Now, all of a sudden, he comes to my team. He's 22 years old with a credit card and gets to do whatever. And I expect him just to like go handle his business in whatever country or whatever the fuck we're doing. I can't hold his hand. Like he has to be able to do things on his own. And that's what, same thing with like a cowboy. You have so many responsibilities when the boss tells you, like, hey, you're going to go here and go do X. Like you have to be able to go accomplish those tasks. So it's a very relatable to team life because you do have a lot of autonomy to and freedom. You're not micromanaged for most cases unless it's something specific the boss needs you to do, just like in special forces. But you're not micromanaged. You just get told tasks to do and you go handle them.
Yeah. You fake the funk, right? That's a big
Yeah.
one in the military. There's a
Yeah.
lot you can fake in the military. If you just look, that's part of ours, right?
Yeah.
Always look cool.
Yeah. Always look
But part
cool.
of looking cool is being squared away. Man, if
Right.
you
Absolutely.
if you look the part, God, you can get away with a lot of shit in the military But there's a lot of things you can't talk your way out of. That you can't talk your way into running a 30-minute 5 mile,
Right.
or
Absolutely.
like, or being extremely strong. If you can bench 400 pounds, there's
Right.
no faking that. 400 pounds is
Right.
still 400 pounds. And going to the range, perishable skill, putting your time in, getting your emotions down, all those other things. What are you seeing from these professionals? Because would you classify you're just an amateur, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
What would you say? What do you see that these professionals do that you go, God, holy fuck, out there on the
You
range?
mean like in the shooting stuff or
No,
cowboy
no,
stuff, or what are we talking
yeah, in on the horses and moving cattle and
about?
shit like that. What are you seeing that's so far ahead of what you do?
So the reality of it is the best people I've ever been around, the best guys I've ever worked for, were all older gentlemen. I the first kind of really badass, amazing cowboy, other than my grandfather, that I got to work for. So I retired from the army and I went down to Alpine, Texas, and I worked for a gentleman by the name of Joe Nelson. And Joe Nelson is a famous cowboy poet, but he was also enlisted in the 101st in Vietnam, and he's this old badass Vietnam veteran. Matter of fact, a few years later, when Uvalde happened, he actually went through the police academy to be a school resource officer at 83 years old, because he was like, if they're not going to go rescue kids, like, I'll go in there and get in a gunfight. This is stupid. So that's just the kind of dude, badass cowboy American that Joe Nelson is. Um, so I worked, on that with them, and I'm out there with like 80-year-old, 70 and 80-year-old men that have just been doing this since they're kids. So when I say flawless and effortlessly, the way they read cattle, the way, just the experience, I mean, it's so hard to explain. Um, the best way I can relate things to people, and it's constantly going to be the old guys. I've worked at the Five Cost Ranch for Rob Carey. He's an old buckaroo from Alberta, and he's in his 70s. I mean, it's just these guys who were raised, on family ranches and been doing it since they were children, since the earliest memories that they were riding horses and learning to do this with their dad and their grandfathers. So their horsemanship is amazing, their roping skills are amazing. Their stockmanship, the way they handle cattle. Um, and it's a lot like being a Green Beret, in a sense where, like, when you're an 18 Zulu, you're expected to understand so many different tasks in all three levels of the battlefield. Like, you should understand that as a regular Green Beret, but even more so, you're responsible for all those things. And I'm talking about, like, in that planning environment, in that overall perspective of running that team every day. You're the subject matter expert, and when these guys have been practicing this skill set for so long, I mean, just the way they swing ropes, the way they, do things with horses, they've seen more stuff, in their lifetime than you can imagine when it comes to that profession. So it's always been the old guys that have been the most elite at anything I've ever seen. Now, obviously, there's different classes. If we're talking, the bronc riders and the bull riders, there's young man sports for sure. But when it comes to being a real cowboy, working and handling livestock, taking in the market, making money, doing the right thing, understanding grass, understanding all these different things, kind of back to what most people don't realize when it comes to being a cowboy, a lot like what people don't realize when it comes to being a Green Beret. It's like, take, being a jump master, for instance. Everybody sees guys just exiting the aircraft and landing and doing all this other stuff, but it's like the math and science and all the crazy shit you're doing as a DZSO and the primary jump master, and all the safety regulations and checks and things that you're doing that no one else sees. Those are things, the more that you do them, the more you become proficient at them. So it's the same way with these guys. They just have layers and layers and layers of jobs and responsibilities that they've been doing their entire life. So they make it look very effortless when they're actually applying those working cowboy skills, if you will.
And the draw that's got to be there to be out there when you're in your 80s, because we get to now, we work at a job. We were talking about this before. You work at a job for a week you don't like, you're like, I just want to die. And these guys have been doing it for, and I hate using the word literally their entire lives, and they're just out there still doing it, working it, and can't get enough of it. And that feeling, that's got to be something indescribable for them, because do you see that they still have the appreciation like they did when they
Yeah.
were younger for what they're doing?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna say the people that I surround myself with, and I've met, some people that I've removed myself from and things. Um, but for the most part, I mean, it's really cool seeing somebody at that age, being out with cowboys that are in their 20s or guys in their 50s, 60s, 70s. Just you name the age range. Everyone. Even if it's serious, and it's I'm not saying it's always playful and childish, but you really see kind of that childlike happiness with a lot of people doing that, and I think that that's why those guys do it into their 80s. Some of them do it out of necessity. They're running their operation or whatever, um, but it's what they do. It's what they love. And like I was telling you about the connection with the horses and with the animals and nature, and that's all part of it. Um, so I think that to me, that's a big one is just to see like how happy it makes them. I can imagine, and I've heard some of the old guys tell me things, but, or we'll stop somewhere over a bluff or on top of a peak or on a ridge or something. And they just, will tell you history about a point, or they'll tell you, over there one day they tell you a story about how they tried to rope this bull and it ran down that cliff or whatever. And or they just sit there and they just say, "Hey, look at that. There's nothing cooler than that, right?" And just looking over these mountains. So I think in those moments are like those tangible things for me that I've seen these old guys like, press time out and want to like decompress and like soak it all in, whether it was through a story or just through like stop for a second and look at this. So I've always had those type of experience with those guys. And even the most big, hardest, badass guys that don't show emotions, don't talk very much. You oftentimes will get a little story out of them or a little history fact or something. To me, I take that as like their way of just kind of honoring the land and respecting it and taking in those moments and that kind of childlike happiness.
It's good you recognize that. We military, and it's getting better, I guess, with the technology and people having phones in their pockets, but we very rarely realize that this, like right now, it's never going to happen again. This is the last time that this moment will happen, and to go and to stop and appreciate it and go, man, this is kind of cool, and then hopefully you take a picture or savor it, or maybe you don't, or maybe just make a mental note and go, man, this is pretty cool. And we suck at that in the military and generally in life because you go, oh man, I wish I had a picture of the guys.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
that's why I try to throw everything up there, and if people send me stuff, I try and show that. It's like, man, look at this. Like, get that reminder in your phone to pause and take a minute,
Yeah,
because those guys showing you those things and just stopping and looking, that somebody did that for them, and they probably looked at them like, what's this guy doing?
yeah.
What's this? And now they're in that spot going, phew, here I am in this seat instead of that seat, looking out over the mountains here in Colorado. I assume you're in Colorado at that point.
I've been all over the place. So I day worked, whether that was for ranches or it was, packing for outfitters, as a hunting guide or guiding sheep hunts. Colorado, Wyoming, Montana, Idaho, New Mexico, and Arizona are all the places that I've cowboyed. And then that one time down in Texas, in Alpine, Texas.
Getting paid in sunsets, huh?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like I'm super fortunate and I have seen, I'm not gonna say a lot because I think it's just what I see, right? Like I'm kind of connected to the Western world in that way, the industry. Um, but I have a lot of guys, Green Berets, that are getting out of the military that want to be cowboys that are, whether it's day work and whatnot. There's guys who've been going through programs and stuff. Got a buddy who's retiring at 10th group right now, who just finished up a cowboy program it's designed by a retired Green Beret colonel for Green Berets to teach him how to be cowboys. Um, and I see a lot of guys want to get into the industry and do it because of the rewards it has and just like another mission, you're doing something badass. It's manly, it's fun, it's hard, it's dangerous. It's checking a lot of blocks, but also something you can kind of do at your own pace and your own level. Um, and it doesn't have to be, like skydiving or riding a motorcycle and other things. I'm not saying people don't die riding horses and get hurt really bad because they do. And every cowboy's banged up. All my injuries since I retired have been from cowboy. Um, and But that being said, a lot of guys are, wanting to get into that industry and do that, and I think if you are set up like I am, it's very attainable for a lot of guys who can retire out of the military. What I mean by that is, I have my retirement and my disability that I have. So great, super grateful for that. So when I work and do things, I'm able to do jobs that are paid dog shit, but they're super fun. Because I don't necessarily need it, I'm not financially like really leaning on this. Um, because if you want to get into being a cowboy or being a hunting guide or something, like, you really make $5 a day. Like, it's not what people think it is. I mean, it's, day work, average day work pays 150 bucks a day, um maybe up to 200, 250 some places. But even that is, you have to bring your own horses, your own truck, trailer, feed. Like, they don't give you anything. You show up when they tell you to show up, you stay as long as they tell you to stay. And, depending on how cool the boss is or friendly you are with them or their friends or whatever, then yeah, you get accommodations. I might be able to stay there, camp there, put your horse up somewhere, whatever. But when you add that up, $150 a day, like, even what if I work 6 days a week, for every all year long, I'm still not making much money.
Some of the hardest jobs in the world, they don't pay what you think they pay.
No, not at
Like,
all.
you're working. You're not like, oh, I'm gonna go take a shit for 2.5 hours
Right.
because I hate my job. You're
Right.
fucking
We're
working.
working.
And there's
Yeah, and
people.
it's sad because, and it's not that like ranchers aren't paying their cowboys proper wages. They're paying them what they can, and trying to make it happen. And when you look at the beef industry and just how, like, corrupt it is, and all the beef that we bring in from Argentina, India, um, just all over the world, Australia and Brazil. And then, the meat packing industry has basically a monopoly. There's only three meat packing companies in the United States. Um, US SDA, all those rules, all the things that go on. It's just a corrupt bullshit that, they drive the cattle market. So these guys aren't, millionaire. One of the joke in the ranching industry is, the quickest way to become a millionaire ranching is to start with $1 billion. Um, and it's just a shady, corrupt thing. And now there's all this crazy stuff with the government, doing eminent domain and all these different things to farmers and ranchers. So agriculture is definitely something that I love being connected to, and working for these amazing people, because you're feeding in America. And but you also see like how fragile it is and what's going on with the government and things around it, that I think most people take for granted because we live in a bubble. um it's like you're just going to the grocery store, you're doing this, and if there's not strawberries there, you're upset about it. You'll find strawberries, like, you can have them delivered to your house, right, or whatever. You live in that, you have no idea what's going on, because we don't run agriculture the way we should. And especially with farming, meaning, if strawberries aren't ripe in February, then we don't you don't buy strawberries. That's how it is in other places. But we nope, not in America. Like, we want our strawberries year round, 24/7. We want to be able to buy strawberries. So all that has led to a system that is basically just very downtrodden towards, unless you're a big corporation. So the only people that are doing well in these industries are these massive corporations, and that's why you see like Google or whoever owns, what's that guy, Bill Gates and stuff like that, buying property, buying land in the agriculture space, because they can mass produce things while they squash the small business owner, the small farmer, the small ranchers. Um, so all that's going on behind the scenes, on top of, and that trickle down effect, is the why the guys, that are cowboys are making, $35,000 a year.
Yeah, and these regulations, and I guess my buddy laid it out to me pretty well with milk. He's like, we have to keep up with all the same shit that the big companies do. And that is very difficult to do when you're a small operation. And then three different organizations come in and inspect you, and you fail on a fan that's unplugged. So you fail. So you can't. So he's like, we stopped producing milk over an unplugged fan. He's like, I can't. That was it. That was the last straw. I'm like, I'm not fucking paying you to come back here and inspect me. So they just stopped, sent the cows to the market. Like, we're done. And Yeah, it's a bummer that that goes that way. You guys are small farms. I you said with in season and stuff like that. Beef's always in season. I eat 2 to 3 pounds of meat a day, so it's nice that you can just go grab a cow from the local butcher, and I got a freezer full of meat, and I eat that until it's gone.
Yeah.
But is the what you're doing for work? How's that influence your diet? Has this become more of a part of it since you've gotten into it, or how? And now that you
No,
see,
I mean,
because you eat a lot of meat. There's one ingredient in beef, right?
yeah.
But then you start looking, and you're like, what have I been eating all these years when I was in the service? Because in the service, you're like, ah, fuck,
Oh
you got
yeah,
to eat whatever
absolutely.
you can eat. And then you
Yeah.
go, man, I was really eating garbage and feeling like shit compared to what
Yeah.
I am now eating clean.
Yeah, I've never eaten like a bunch of bullshit other than like when I know I'm eating bullshit, you know. Um my mother, she cooked every single day. Everything was from scratch. Like she was just an old Indian lady who just cooked everything. So I grew up eating really good, clean food. We grew up pretty poor. So my dad, a lot of the meat we ate was game meat, a lot of elk, a lot of venison, bear. And then my dad would either get paid in beef sometimes, or we'd buy like a whole beef or a half a beef. So I've had like meat, game meat, and beef from ranches in my diet like my entire life before I left for the army. And then while I was in the army, you know, just like being physically fit and stuff, I've always eaten pretty healthy unless it was just like I said, I know I'm eating bullshit. So I wouldn't say my diet's changed at all, you know, in that manner. My diet's changed because of stomach issues and things I've had. You know, I've had Giardia a bunch of times and dysentery, you know, on deployments and stuff. So my guts are pretty fucked up. So in that, I definitely eat. I would say I eat primarily meat, meat and fruit, and sometimes a little bullshit. I do eat a lot of Greek yogurt. I love Greek yogurt. So those are probably the three things I eat the most. And you know, and like I said, every now and then I'll eat some bread or whatever if I'm eating a burger or something. But I usually eat pretty good. Um, and then just really trying to get my diet dialed in. I think that's also helped, you know, with a lot of inflammation or other issues that I've had health wise. Figuring out, you know, what was affecting my guts, but it is primarily meat. But I've been that way before I even, you know, started Cowboys. I wouldn't say it affected my diet. What it has helped me realize though was looking at from a different perspective of like seeing how people don't understand when they go to the grocery store. You know, you're buying it's like you're buying shit from Brazil. That's bullshit. Um, and instead of doing that, it's like, hey, there's so many local farmers and ranchers and people who will sell you beef. I think that's the way to go is to find somebody in your area where you can just support them and buy stuff from them. And then you know where it's coming from. Um, and there's a lot of people out there that will let you, you know, that mail stuff to lots of cool ranches that have things you can get online and order and whatnot. So at least you know where it's coming from. You're buying from a small business and not this giant meat packing industry and going to the store and just kind of getting a bunch of bullshit. So I recommend people do that too. You know, support your businesses. Whether it's if you live somewhere in a city, you don't have people around you. You know, there's really cool people online that you can buy stuff from. Lots of small ranches that are doing stuff online now.
Um, well, we've got two recent guests. Kevin Key, he's a rancher. He sells to big buyers, but he has a
Nice.
ranch. And then Sticky Green Beret, Alex down in
Yeah.
Texas. He you can buy his stuff on go to Turkey. I don't want to get this wrong. Turkey Knob Cattle Company, and they'll send it to you as well. Um, I like my Wisconsin cows. I just go down the street here and pick up a half
Nice.
a side of beef.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it is expensive the day that you pay them. That's expensive that day. But then there's nothing after that. And the
Hmm.
ground beef is, I don't know, 5.50, $6 a pound. That's a little higher than what you get at Costco or whatnot. But oh, the ribeyes, $6 a pound as well. The prime ribs, $6 a pound. So
Hmm.
it's all the same price. And once you get past that, you're like, man, I'm eating pretty good here for I
Yeah.
don't know, $18 a day, $15 a day. And of course, you got to cook your own meals and food and all that other stuff. But it's, once you start getting into any industry, but you said it seems like have a family heritage of being around the ranch even when you were young, and then you just got back into it. So You took a hiatus to join the military and go
Yeah.
off and do that.
Yeah, so I grew up in Montana for about half of my life, or and I kind of bounced around all over Montana. My dad was just typical blue collar dude. He did everything from working on ranches as a cowboy to working at the talc mine, to carpentry work, construction stuff, um, and then he put himself through school to become a nurse. He wanted to be a flight nurse. At the same time, my mother was doing a lot of the same stuff. She was doing my mother is Apache. She was doing a lot of modeling for like this famous Western artist. One of them's name is Val Miller, and the other one name is Donald Putman. And there's a bunch of like postcards and stuff that are super famous even today that are all my mother. But my mom worked on ranches, did odds and ends stuff like that. So that was kind of my childhood until my dad became a nurse. The whole time as well, my dad was also in the National Guard. So my dad was in the Army before I was born in the 70s, and then was in the National Guard the whole time I was a kid. And I think he retired in like 2016 or 17 or something like that. So he was in the Army for a really long time on the National Guard side. So I got a chance to see my dad always going, to drill, and like he'd bring home MREs, and like I said, I just always played like army shit. Like that was what it was. And then all the men and everyone I was around was already always these very like warrior minded, tough cowboys, or the same thing, like these just mountain men style like Montana boys. And then on my mother's side, the same. Like it was all like so many veterans. Both my grandfathers on both sides, were in the war. My dad's dad was in World War II, and then my mom's father, he has a Silver Star in Korea. He was a machine gunner in the Marine Corps. So that whole side of the family too is like a long history of just warriors, obviously being Apache, but not only serving in the military, but just that mindset. So I was always around these like tough, gritty dudes, and just really kind of raised around that. Um, and then when my dad got a flight nurse job in Las Vegas, so we moved to Vegas, and I went to junior high and high school in Las Vegas, in East Las Vegas, and that's where the name the Ghetto Vaquero comes from, because I was just this half breed kid from Montana, and people thought we were like Mexican. They didn't know what so it was weird, but it was so fun. It was such a cool experience because it really helped mold me for the military, for life. I had already learned a lot of like tough, gritty things as a kid in Montana, especially being a half breed. It was like I was not Indian enough for the Indians, not white enough for the white kids, and like I I was an angry little fucking kid, man. Like all I did was fight since I can remember, um, and I got my ass beat a lot, but I didn't care. It was just one of those things that my dad was like, and it was true. Like if I fight back, they don't mess with me. Um, so I took that same attitude to Las Vegas, and that like gave me a lot of, I got my ass beat still and things, but that gave me a lot of like street cred, if you will, with people who were like, damn, this dude's down, like he's from Montana, but because from the city, people think you're from Montana, you're like some bitch ass dude or something. And I'm like, what? Um, and then uh, I joined the army. I joined the army from right out of high school, and again, that living in the hood in East Las Vegas really helped get me ready for a lot of things. Helped me, as a young man, it kind of already had this big stance on morals and values and what hard work looks like and things from the cowboy side. And then it just gave me a little more street smarts and like how to apply that in the real world. And like people will take advantage of you. And, just a lot of those life lessons that like I think if I would have stayed, a small town kid in Montana, I would have learned the hard way in the army. But I got to learn them, in junior high and high school, from going to school and just interacting and being around that environment before I go off on my own, where I have no support from my family or whatever.
How we as young adults or children or teenagers couldn't give two shits usually about our heritage. How much of yours were you aware of on both sides?
Yeah, all of it. My dad's side of the family, we know that as far back as my great grandparents that I can remember, my great grandma Hancock was a from Oklahoma. She moved out to San Diego in the early 1900s, and she brought a bunch of her dad's and her uncle's horses out, and that's the Hancock bred horses. They were real kind of a famous. ranch horse. They're real bronky, but once you get a good one, they're great, real big, hardy horses. Um, and my grandfather, the guy she married, was a buckaroo on the Tajon Ranch, which is a real big, famous outfit in Southern California that was around for a really long time. Um, and they met, and that's all they did their whole lives. And my grandfather as well, he was a buckaroo in San Diego, and he joined the war when he was 15 years old. He got back from the war when he was 17, and he was a rodeo guy, rode bulls, and was a pickup man, and trained horses, and day worked, um, and then in the 60s, he moved up to Montana. So that's how my family got to Montana on my dad's side. They moved up to Montana no, excuse me, in the 70s. My dad left for the army, and my grandparents moved up to Montana. But I was around my great grandmother all the time. Every summer we go to San Diego. She had a ranch in El Cajon, and my dad and I would help, do chores and work in my grandma's place, and it was connected to her sisters, my Aunt Marvel's place. And they both trained horses and rode barrels and sold barrel horses and stuff until their 90s. Um, so I mean, even when I lived in Las Vegas as a teenager, especially when we moved to Vegas, I was down in San Diego way more often than when we lived in Montana. Um, so I know, that side of the family. I know a lot of the history of like the vaqueros and the buckaroo system, and that style of horsemanship. Um, and then on my mother's side, my mother was adopted. So the grandfather that raised me wasn't my real grandfather, but he was this badass dude. He was a fire captain in San Diego County. Um, and all my uncles, all her brothers were all fire captains in California forestry. One of my uncles, he has a big award from the governor. He rescued a bunch of people in this big fire in like 2015. But so they were on the military and served on the as firefighters. And what happened was is my grandmother, she went to Native American boarding schools, and so did my grandfather, my real grandfather. And what they do is a lot of people don't understand about the boarding school system, but it was basically they wanted to educate the Indian out of the Indians and white completely. That's where the term whitewashing comes from. Pretty horrific stuff they did to those kids. Most of it was all ran by the Catholic Church. And it basically, they weren't allowed to speak their language. They would get beat for talking, and they cut their hair. They did a crazy stuff to them. A lot of them went missing. A lot of them were killed. Lots of sexual abuse, lots of abuse. And that happened in our country until the 1970s. So my grandmother and my grandfather went to these schools, and my grandma was like, I don't want my kids to do this at all. So she, because we're Apache where we live at, speaks Spanish. The boarding school she went to was Spanish. So she basically just moved to California and inculcated into like the Mexican American environment. The place they lived in California was in Julian, California. And in Julian, up there in the mountains, there's like 4 or 5 Indian reservations around there. So my grandma kind of picked a cool place where like they wouldn't go to the boarding school, but there was a native community where she could still interact with other natives, even though it's from other tribes. Um, but my grandma always stayed quiet about it. She never talked about it. She just let it be that, this is where we're from. This is where my dad's from. Yeah, he's from Mexico. So everything connected. No one's like, yeah, you're Mexican. Um, Mexican American, if you will. When my mother, my damn, well, this is a crazy story. My dad's oldest sister is married to my mom's oldest brother. So my parents knew each other when my dad was like 10 and my mom was like 14 or something when they got married. My dad, my Aunt Betty, my dad's older sister, my dad's the youngest, was best friends with my mother. And they met when they were like 14 when their sister and their brother got married. So my aunt moves to Montana with when her parents went up there in the 70s, and my mom went up there with her to work, and that's what they went. They were like, well, my parents are up there, we can cowboy, we can do this, we can train horses, whatever. Um, so that was the plan. That's how my mother got to Montana. When she was there for a few years, she met a guy named Harris Rock, and Harris Rock is an elder in the Assiniboine tribe. And after like that friendship and that, what happened is my mother ends up getting adopted and becoming an Assiniboine. And because she was just so disconnected from her Apache heritage and everything. So by blood, I'm Apache. I do know who my real grandfather is. I do know who my real family is. Um, and I have found some cousins. I found my mom's sister. But up until I was in, and I wouldn't even know all this until probably about 2 years before I retired, that I'm not Assiniboine, that we are Apache. So everything I did my whole life, all the powwows I ever went to, powwow season, everything was, we were with Harris Rock and all the Assiniboines. And, my parents, even when I was in the Army, every powwow season, they jump on the Harley and go up to Montana, South Dakota, North Dakota, just do a big powwow loop. And my dad's like the only white guy out there and like putting up TPs and doing his thing. And no one messes with Uncle Rick, and that's how I grew up, man. Just a super cool family. And both my parents, were um, definitely involved in the community, especially the Native community. My mother was always big into trying to help women to get out of abusive relationships or just help them. Um, and it was like nothing. I'd come home from the Army and be on leave, and there'd be like one of my brother's friends living at the house, or my sister's friend or something. Like, my parents were just amazing people who took care of people. On top of my dad, serving, being a flight nurse and doing that his whole career. Um, so that's in a nutshell, like my heritage. Now I am trying to learn more and understanding, about the Apache people, and really being prideful of that. Um, so in that, and just kind of that whole thing, and now kind of like talking about my mom and my dad. When I retired from the Army, I was like, we talked a little about this before we jumped on, like looking for a mission, looking for a purpose, right? Um, I looked at like what everybody can do with our backgrounds is like the contracting world. And I talked to buddies who were contracting out at one of my best friends I was in third group with. He's working, for a company, and was just like, man, it's not what you think. I also was deployed with those guys in Iraq and Afghanistan, and saw it, and I was like, dude, yeah, that's not the kind of contract I want to do. Everybody thinks that all these dudes that work at fucking GRS and all this shit are these bad. It's like, dude, it's not what you fucking think, man. Um, and I knew that going in, and I ended up getting anti-human trafficking contract working with a nonprofit and some other NGOs in Africa. Well, COVID hit, and it was like, cancel everything. COVID's more important than getting bad guys and rescuing kids. So I'm at home, and I'm like, man, I want to do something for Americans. It was like the first time I've seen operations where um, I knew I was a good guy. We did good. We got these kids away from these bad guys. Like, you physically see what's going on. It's horrible. And we're doing something, right? And that I wanted to try to, like, how could I do this in America? What could I do? At the same time, I had just started social media. I didn't have social media until I retired. And the reason why I started it was 2 years before I retired, I started racing in the Grand Traverse ski race. It's the biggest backcountry ski race in North America. It's 40 miles from Crested Butte to Aspen. And I did that to raise money for the first one time I did it. I think I did the Special Forces Foundation, or Special Forces Association, that I did Green Beret Foundation. Like, so I was just using them, but I needed social media to kind of like, hit my GoFundMe's, check that stuff out. So I started the social media to do that. So it was all based off of like trying to fundraise and just talk about like, hey, I'm retired, raising money for other dudes. And the reason why I was just kind of touching on the social media thing was like that also kind of played into it, where I just started social media, and now what I'm seeing, I've never scrolled before, I've never like had all these like videos, or you can look up a topic and see what normal people are talking about, then kind of investigate and do your own rabbit holes. So I knew about the MMIW issue, which stands for Missing Murdered Indigenous Women, from my mother. And I really just started going down the rabbit holes of what it is. And some of the data that you can pull up on it, it's like 2016 was the last time the DOJ did an official investigation, trying to crunch numbers. And in 2016, if I get the numbers right, it was 2,172, I believe, cases of missing murdered Indigenous women. Only 166, or excuse me, only 116 were logged into the DOJ. So all over Indian country, you had nothing but missing women and girls happening. And then on social media, you have like this awareness on what's going on. And then I would see these families saying they were going to do search and rescue efforts or do something. So I was like, man, I got a skill set, nothing else. Like, I can walk around in the woods with a backpack on and track people and, do something. So I just started helping these families, like try to conduct investigations or whatever I could help them. Um, and then that kind of like I needed a way to pay for it too. So what I did was I started Work Party Movement, which is essentially just you started out as basically a t-shirt company with a message, and a mission behind it, which was I just need to sell these t-shirts so I can fund some of these efforts that we're doing in the community. The veteran community has been huge. It's so awesome to, especially the special operations community. If I say, hey, I need a guy, I'm going here. No questions asked. You can't film, you can't talk about it, you can't be on social media. Like it's an op, dude. I need your help. Um, to even sending guys out on their own, saying, hey, I got a family in Oklahoma. You got a skill set, you good with linking up with them. And they don't care who shows up, black, white, brown, red. They don't care. The family is just like, wow, man. And the cool thing about the special ops guys is like, obviously, that name means something, right? You're a Green Beret or a Navy SEAL or something, like they know that. The Native community serves at a higher rate than any other race in our country. So veterans and warriors are still honored. They're the first people honored at powwows. Um, all the elders, are veterans. I mean, it's just heavy community that has a lot of respect for veterans, and they know what special operations is. So that was growing, and it turned into everything from like just selling these t-shirts with the message and trying to tell people about MMIW, to whether it was like we're physically removing ladies off out of abusive relationships, to conducting investigations, to paying for ladies to go through therapy that we moved them from a relationship. um Worst business model ever, like make money and give it all away. But it was amazing because we're just like, it was a for profit that I was kind of running like a nonprofit, if you will. And some of the amazing ladies we work with and the things and the families and stuff that's been happening in the community is so cool. And then from there is where like Work Party Ranch is born, which is a 501c3 nonprofit. And essentially what happened, long story long, is I work with women trying to get them out of situations. I helped get this lady out of a really bad spot on the Indian reservation. She was on the run from gang members. We get her to a safe house in Texas. Um, it doesn't go well there. They try to put a lot of religious stipulations on her and don't let her pray or burn sage and sweetgrass, and it's weird. So she takes off. I end up, trying to track her down, figure out what's going on with her. Find out a couple weeks later that she had overdosed in Pueblo, Colorado on fentanyl. So I went from this like high of, we rescued this lady, we helped her get out of this situation to a safe place, to then going to this low of like trying to help her like navigate this safe house, whatever, that she's at. This isn't a knock onto these places, but that also helped me realize that like we remove somebody, I'm just calling churches and safe houses and lady shelters and like, where can we get her that's safe? Um, and we found this one in Texas, and same thing, Greenberry Network. I had a guy that he was actually out, my Charlie when I was a team sergeant. His his mom is a sheriff deputy down in Texas where we sent her. So she was able to receive her at the airport armed and everything and give her escort to this place and was kind of checking in on. This time I knew she actually left and what the issues were because his mother, the sheriff's deputy, was telling me what was going on. Um, and it was just like, man, these places don't have they're not teaching them anything. They're not like helping them move past, break the cycle of abuse or like even get a job or like focus on life. They're just in a safe place and they're just there for the amount of time they have a bed for them. So, like, again, I went from this like high to this extreme low of like, dude, what the hell, man? Like, we're trying to help, blah, blah, blah. All the things that kind of go into that. And that is the reason why we wanted to start World Party Ranch was we wanted to create a place where we could empower women using warrior skills to be able to help break the cycle of abuse, to show them, to give them confidence, but also give them skill sets that they can fall back on, whether that was in the Western industry, try to help get a job, but also just that confidence that riding horses and ranching and being a cowboy gives you because you're controlling this 1,000-pound animal and you're working and you're doing all these really hard, tough tasks. Um, the same way with our self-defense courses or our hunting clinics or shooting courses. We wanted to bring skill sets that give these ladies confidence, but also in a way that helps you progress. Um, not like false confidence of, you're a good person type shit. You got to be able to defend yourself. We got to get in this warrior mindset. I really believe that, people who have a warrior mindset, through training and through doing things, are often the people that are the most humble, the most soft spoken, the most cool headed in in hectic situations, because they deal with that pressure and they deal with things all the time. They don't need to be overly aggressive, but they know how to, control that. So we look at those warrior skills that we teach, and what War Party Ranch is in that 501c3. We basically just run clinics for ladies. We do a lot of sponsorships. We're heavily involved in the Native community. We really want to try to impact the Native community as much as possible, working with these ladies who have, obviously, when you look at statistics, just the you know the most likely to be harmed, whether it's murdered, missing, or domestic violence, sexual assault. So that's our target demographic, but we work with everybody, and that's basically kind of like my new what I do in life. Like all the cowboying, the hunting guide, the other stuff I do is, I often tie all war party things into a lot of that. Um, but it's also, a good way for me to reset and things. But it's a lot of ways I'm sharpening my skills. Everything that we're teaching these ladies are things that, like, I'm actively trying to. I have a job in, like, as a hunting guide, when we're teaching hunting clinics, it's something that I'm speaking from firsthand experience on, as a person who hunts, but also someone who is helping, guiding somebody else out there to harvest an animal. So everybody that sits on the board, all the ladies that are on the board, they're involved. They're all subject matter experts, and something on our mission statement. And again, that's my path forward, and my way to be, to live like the oppressively bear, like to continue that. And then, the double-edged sword of this nonprofit and war party movement is, um, again, the veteran community, being able to really rely on those guys, my old teammates, my old team friends I meet or know, that have come out and worked with us, with the ladies. I often feel that the guys get more out of it than the ladies do. It is life changing news for these ladies, but to have, some guy, that's been in combat multiple times and all this experience, all this trauma and things he's dealing with in life, to go out to a range and teach ladies to shoot for 3 days. Like, to just see that dude's face and joy, and the way the ladies, are so thankful for his experience and his knowledge and treating them. Um, it's really cool to see. And that, like I said, kind of double-edged sword to be able to bring these Green Berets in. Often, like me, girl dads, I think, are a lot different than normal dads. Um, so that's where I'm at now. That's my new focus on everything that's going on in my life. Everything I do, work wise, training wise, whether it's in the gym, Muay Thai, wrestling, whatever, it's geared towards some trying to sharpen skill sets, warrior skills that we are teaching in with War Party Ranch, what we're doing with War Party Movement.
Phew.
Sorry, I just talked for like 30 minutes.
No, it's all right. I like to let people run. And I was right there. A couple things um, came up for me. So, and these are rough just from my awareness. I watch a lot of documentaries and stuff. So
Hmm.
I believe the reason for all this, right, is because Native American women are 10 times more likely than every other subsect of the population to become missing or murdered
Yes.
or something like that.
Yes.
And it only makes up like 1% of
1%.
1%
Yep.
of the population, and they're 10 times more likely. And the way it was shown to me is there's these. So you got a res, right?
Hmm.
And you've got these circles of who has jurisdiction. Well, none of them really overlap over
Correct.
the res. And then
Correct.
if the one case was the guy was on vacation who was the only federal agent on the res, and he was gone. So there was, I mean, 2 weeks. There's no law in that area, and these things can happen. From what I take is this isn't unique to any of the reservations. This is for all of them. There's
Correct.
this
So,
lack of coverage.
yes. So, what I deal with on the War Party Movement side of things now is I have a partner called the Traverse Project. They are a nonprofit. They work in data collection, anti-human trafficking all over the world. I help provide some of the resources and ground resources you need to be able to do some of this stuff. Um, I also have a big overlap with just through the work I've done with, I know U.S. Marshals, I know FBI agents, I know Border Patrol guys, 4-star guys. I have a really vast network of kind of the underground system that I have. So when people are missing or things are going on, what we try to do on World Party Movement side is tie in and help put our hands on the back of law enforcement and help guide them into us, being able to solve these cases. Unfortunately, excuse me, all the things you're talking about is true. Um, the reservations are all sovereign land. They're all governed by each individual tribe. I believe there's 516 or 517 tribal nations in the United States. So each one of those has their own government, their own tribal police, they all run it their own way. The Bureau of Indian Affairs, the BIA, is involved in all those reservations. However, um, the FBI is only one, the federals, so the only one that can come on in the Indian land. So again, like in Mesa, Arizona, a young Apache lady was murdered, and they were searching for her body parts. It was like on and off the res is where, like, what's going on. So whether it's suspects or people are moving on and off the res, there's so many communities where you have these towns and counties that line up on and off the reservation. You have places like Crowheart on the Wind River Reservation, where half of it is white people that live there, and Lander, Wyoming, and that area. So you have this very convoluted who's in charge, whose district is it. On top of that, a lot of the ones in the West, a lot of the ones places you see the most people going missing, they're all some very rural. Um, so where there's poverty, there's human trafficking. That's just period across the board, no matter where. Um, the access and placement and the ability to do those things on the Indian reservation is easier for bad guys because of the jurisdictional issues, and they're oftentimes in the middle of nowhere. Amazon's not going to bring a warehouse to, outside Pine Ridge to give, 2,000 Indians jobs. So there's no money. There's no, all the rampant crime, the drug use, those things exist on those reservations to compile onto how easy it is because it's very rural. So anybody who knows like how rural policing goes, you know, even in Good County in Montana that's full of rich people, there might be 3 deputies on duty, and it might take them 2 hours to get from one side of the county to the other side of the county. On top of investigations, on top of everything they have going on. So they're basically just underfunded, understaffed, just like every police force is, all these tribal police officers, as well as the BIA. There's a lot of corruption. There's a lot of, my family's this, your family's that, in certain places, if you're not a certain last name, like it doesn't matter. A lot of with small town policing, this isn't just Indian reservations, this is America. Uh, in particular, the smaller counties, even more, is if I live in your county and let's say there's 12, 12 guys total, sheriff, deputy, everybody, right? And you call the cops, your wife, you beat the snot out of your wife. She gets on the phone to call the cops. She's friends with my wife. She knows I beat the snot out of my wife. Like, what is she going to do? I show up and then what? So now, and that's the kind of stuff that happens. So that happens in, all facets of small town policing because of what corruption exists. Big policing too. Not saying that doesn't happen, but those things compile on Indian reservations because of last names. Really, I would boil it down to like when you look at history in a nutshell, everything is about the plight for survival, and it's easy to umbrella things and not bring yourself in and be able to look at through the other person's bubble, whether that's the guy who's the Indians are living, you pick the time, the era, whether it was the settlers, whatever. It's so hard to think about it from somebody who's just trying to survive. So when I say that, meaning like, yeah, the police are corrupt or these things happen, it's also not a knock on them. Like they're trying to like make their family survive and keep the paycheck, and it just so much of that. There's so much of the wishy-washy between right and wrong and all those issues. But the biggest thing is that jurisdictional issue, which is when crimes happen on and off the reservations and they flip-flop where people are. One jurisdiction can't just go in and arrest this guy or vice versa. It wasn't until 2022 that non-tribal members could be prosecuted on tribal land. So before, if you were a non-tribal member, you could go onto the reservation, commit murder, commit rape, or whatever, get off the reservation. You can't be prosecuted for your crimes on tribal land. So it's been crazy with crazy jurisdictional issues, which have caused all these issues to make Native women at a higher risk because the just the the access and placement that the bad guys have by being on our Indian reservation.
We talk about professions, right? Bad guys,
Yep.
that's their profession. Like if you
Yes.
dedicated 100% of your time to being a criminal, like you'd be fucking good at it, and you'd figure out the easy targets: schools, minorities, women, disenfranchised, whatever. And as you said, poverty, right? And the normal person, we can only dedicate like 10% of our lives to like even thinking about that. We got other shit going on. You're not focused on that. And that's terrible though. That's something like what you're doing, which is the most de oppresso liber shit I've ever heard,
I
is
appreciate that.
what you're doing. And that's a shame that that has to exist. But as you said earlier, like we live in this bubble of our own with getting our strawberries and pushing to order stuff to come to the house, that we don't think about it, and that has to exist. And there's people that are going out there and taking advantage of those things. And that's, and not all reservations are created equal, right? Because there's
No.
some tribes that are way more powerful than others, mostly from a monetary wise,
Yeah, it's
right?
all financial. So like I just moved to Florida and I live about 45 minutes from the Seminole reservation. And I went down there to turn my day work paperwork in and meet the foreman. They run 16,000 head on the res. I get to the res, and it's literally like gated communities full of Tesla trucks. And uh, I've never seen a reservation look like this. It was so badass, man. Like the school, brand new freaking school, looks amazing. It's painted, it has the colors of the medicine wheel, all four colors on it. They have these really big covered arenas, and one of them is like this giant skate park that's like the size of a football field. They have the big rodeo grounds. It's all covered. And when I asked them, I was talking to the foreman. He was like, "Yeah, man, these guys just cowboy for fun, and it's good work." He's like, "Hard work," but he's like, a lot of the families, we feed the reservation, but the tribe doesn't need the money from the beef. They just feed the reservation, and then yeah, they sell. They make money, and they're very profitable running their beef. But the Seminoles own the Hard Rock casinos, so that's why they're be able to put a lot of resource in the community. Now, because of where they're located down on the river here or on the lake and all the things they own, monetarily, they're doing very well. There's other reservations, in San Diego and other places that have that same kind of, where they're located. It's the ones that are in the middle of nowhere, like, you drive through Navajo or you're up on Crow Res or up in, up in Billet, excuse me, like Blackfoot or whatever. It's like they're in the middle of nowhere. They don't have this big industry to feed them their economy. They have agriculture and you know all the same stuff that anybody else would in that area. It's all blue collar, hard jobs, right? It's oil, ag, you know, that kind of stuff. Um, and then there's not a lot of it on the Indian reservations. There's also a lot of really crazy laws and rules and things that most people don't know about Indian reservations. Like you can't own you don't own the houses that they live on. Like um, they have a lot of issues with getting bank accounts, even having it's pure insanity, man. And it's one of those things that drives me nuts. Is if we look at the government, like I love my country and I fucking hate the government, dude. And when you look at the government, it's like if we have a study, a case study, literally shows you what happens to people if you remove their way of life, force them to live where they don't want to live, force them to be what you want them to be, and put them somewhere. What happens to them? And the reservations out west are the epitome of that, because they're just located in the most shit places, and there's no industry, there's no jobs that came to those areas of Montana, South Dakota, North Dakota, what have you. And you see what happens to people when you remove all that from them, even giving them commodity foods. Look out obese natives are and diabetes and all the issues they have because you went from somebody who all they ate was buffalo. When people say hunter gatherer, I'm like, you're a fucking idiot when you say gather and you think that we ate berries because it's like go out to the woods and gather some stuff. And everyone knows it's only when stuff's ripe. So yeah, there might be June berries and blueberries in the summer, but they don't last very long. These people are eating meat and they take away this completely strip their warrior identity away from them and force them to live somewhere. I also believe that's why the Native community serves at a higher rate than anybody else. They join the military. They want to be warriors. They understand they're the protectors of Turtle Island. They still honor that. They do have a deep respect and understanding for protecting this country and hating the government at the same time. So when people start talking big government and the government's the solution, I really get lost. I don't understand the very liberal ideology, this non-warrior, this super woke, everyone's a pussy mindset, because it's like, well, explain to me what's going on in reservations then. Tell me about the boarding school system. Like that was the government. So I don't understand why our answer for all of our problems is to bring in the government. Most people don't know that on there's so many places at Indian reservations they don't even have running water. Like I have a crew of buddies down in Navajo. We help out that run water to the elders. They go cut firewood. Like these people wouldn't even survive, make it through the winter if there wasn't like people in their own community willing to trailer water out to them and bring them firewood. Because and it's not that they don't know how to live; it's that they're forced to live at, and there's just no running water and electricity and shit out there. Most people in America don't know that kind of stuff, that there's people that exist. And that's all over our country. That's not just Indian country. That happens, that's in Appalachia and the South, and there's other places that are the same way. But, in Indian country, it's even more so because of the lack of resources. And then when there are resources, you see the government come in to take it away. And when I say the government, we get wrapped around, conservative versus liberals or whatever. It's like it's the same bird, bro. It's just two different wings. There's a big thing going on right now in Apache Flats, where they're taking part of the reservation that they said they would never take. That's holy land, and it happened in 2016 under the or 2015 under the Obama administration. They basically wrote in a defense contract that they could use all the minerals and mine the Apache Flats. So now, right now, the way it's politically written is that like Trump administration is being blamed for taking away this Indians' land under the this defense contract. And what it is, they're going to strip it and mine it. Um, so the whole history for natives for us is that it's broken treaty after broken treaty, it's broken contract after broken contract. It's not taking care of anything you said you were going to do for 150 years to even now taking resources, using the land, not paying the natives for it, you know, and it's really hard for Americans to see that and then not see that with this like very frustrated kind of racial lens. That when I say racist lens, I mean I don't necessarily think people do it on purpose, because I think a lot of people who work hard say that everyone's on the same playing field and you can work and you can make it. I'm not saying you can't, but what happens is without understanding all those things that have happened through the past, you can't just expect people to all of a sudden believe you now this time. You know what I mean? Like when it's been generations of this and what you've seen your entire life as a child, you're not going to all of a sudden believe it this time. The government's never helped and never done what they said they were going to do. So I think that I wish more Americans would take heed of that, understand that, and push back towards our government even more and more constrictions and restraints as they try to do that to us in regular cities. You name it, USA, that's what they're doing to people. And really that, um, what it really is look at Indian reservations, and that's kind of the most extreme version of that. But to me, that's what's going on, and I wish more people would understand the Indian community, um, have more grace with the Indian community and understanding in that, and I think that would help you understand government a lot better.
You said, seeing these things your whole lives. Like, is this, yeah, okay. Or it's just the same thing over and over again. It just looks more modern every time.
Yeah, and and I'm not like I don't live on the reservation now. I was on and off the res as a kid. Um, I've never I've never been like, my parents weren't that way. My mother, my grandmother, all my elders were never like, this is stolen land type stuff. It was very like warriors and mindset and trying to carry on traditions in the old ways, rooted in from the warrior way. Um, but I think it's easy to get discouraged when you know it would be like getting in a gunfight. This happened to a lot of people, in combat, where like the most badass dude in the squad leader, whoever it is, everybody looks up to, gets zipped up right away. And, that guy was, the most elite guy you've ever seen in your life. Now you're an 18-year-old kid and you're like, man, if they could kill Cesar and Jones, like I'm fucking dead, man. So I think almost in that trying to give people kind of like give you like a mental if you feel that way, right, and you have all these warriors through history who are these most badass dudes who they were killed and persecuted and nothing ever happened, that there was nothing came out of it, right? I think it's easy to get discouraged, and there's more discouragement than there is encouragement, especially in the Native community. Everything is very negative versus what's positive in the Native community, and trying to understand and hold on the culture. Um, so for me, when I say I've seen that all my life, yeah, I've seen nonstop, just what it is. And a lot of it's just the poverty, even to, the veterans that are there, right? Like they're not being taken care of. The guys are 100% disabled and they can't even see the doctor because they live, 200 miles from town. They got no vehicle. They're 80 years old. They can't drive themselves. I mean, the nonstop issues I've seen my whole life are the same that people seeing poverty living in a rural area or even an urban area would see. The thing is just more compounded because you have all these government promises and these government subsidies that are supposed to be there. And people have relied on them for generations to only get like the rug pulled out from underneath their feet. So now it's been generations of who gives a fuck? Like, why? Like, fuck it. If that makes sense.
It does. It does. Now, you've got a lot of perspective because you've been off the res and you did your 20 years in the military and you've seen other uh, ways of life in other parts of the world. And you have this view that not a lot of people have. And now you can come back and have an effect on the community. Do people take you as the person more seriously when you bring these things up than they would if somebody had never left the reservation?
I would say yes and no. The conversation, I saw a quote where it was like, it was basically something along the lines of like, so surround yourself with warriors. The conversation's different. Um, and this is just all of America, what I see. And this, I'm going to show you how it ties into the Native community. I am very fortunate. The only people that I really am around, unless I'm at the grocery store or somewhere, is I'm around cowboys. I'm around MMA fighters and guys at the gym, and I'm around former team guys. Um, so I am not around a bunch of pussies like ever. When I'm around a bunch of pussies is when I go to the grocery store and I'm like, dude, does anybody have testosterone here? Like I look around, I'm like, which dad in here would get down with me? And hopefully there's a guy in a fucking orange construction shirt with giant hands and tattoos on his face. I'm like, I know that dude. I know that dude's probably down to get help out in a scrap or defend his wife or kids or whatever, right? Like, and it's just everyone's fat, everyone sucks, just the kids, everything. Everyone's a fucking pussy. And that's just America, man. We suck. We are fucking pussies. And because I live in that bubble of like manly men, it's hard for me to see that. So I see it on the internet all the time. So my conversations with my friends in the Native community, all of my Indian friends, they're all cowboys, former soldiers, Green Berets, Rangers, cowboys, cowgirls, um, smoke jumpers. Like I'm trying to think of all the people like I really talk to and hang out with, and they're all like warriors. They're all like badass people. They struggle a lot with their conversations with their cousins and their other friends because they feel the same way. They're trying to come at this with a different warrior mindset of what our people really are, who we really are, versus this downtrodden, super woke thing. And I'm not saying, I'm not discrediting, the racism of stuff or what things that happened, but my problem is, um, again, going back to history, is we are warriors, right? Like I'm Apache. There's a reason why the Apache helicopter is named that. There's a reason why we have cross arrows on our special forces regiment. Like it's because the reason why Robert's Rangers existed, the reason why, King Philip lost King Philip's War was because that's the first special operations ever considered in the United States was the Indians. It was the Mohawk and the Mohican fought with the Pilgrims against King Philip in the skulking ways, and that's where Special Forces is born. So the natives and Special Forces have such a like strong bond and tie in what we use for tactics and honoring those traditions. We look at all the scouts and reconnaissance from MACV Saw guys to the Alamo Scouts, whatever. All those things are rooted in this very indigenous way of hunting, this very primal skill set that was mastered by the greatest warriors the continent's ever seen. So when I say that to people, because if you were rooted in warriors, the people who don't understand that, I think those are the loudest voices on TikTok, on Instagram, and I call them TikTok Indians. They get on me because I look like a big Mexican. I don't have cool beadwork and shit, but I'm like, nice, nice beads, but you can't even make a fire, bro. Like, who's more Indian? Like, you can't. I take you in the woods in the dark and you'll fucking start crying. So who's the real Indian? So I think it's really hard for people outside of the Native community to decipher that because the loudest voices in the Indian community are the very woke, very left leaning voices. And people don't ever get to hear, the Crow kid that's a cowboy in Hardin who hunts all the time, ride around with a shotgun in his truck and pistol in his car. And he's a just as conservative and just as like family man and everything that his white neighbor in Billings is. There's no difference between the two, but other than the color of their skin. But most Americans will never see that guy. They're never going to hear his TikTok, right? Or see his. They're going to see the other stuff. So I think that's what makes it really hard to get other Americans involved in the Native community and help them kind of understand what's going on in the Native community.
Yeah, notoriety is tough, especially with the way social media is, and you got to be loud and agitative. You got to agitate people to get them to stay watching and hook them and all this other shit. Like, how how well known are you compared to other Native American influencers that are either trying
Damn.
to help or just out for themselves?
Um, that's a weird question. I'll be completely honest when it comes to my social media, bro. I have no idea why that many people follow me. Um, Most of the shit I post is garbage. I do try to post it. When I mean garbage is like we're talking about being out on horses and stuff. I'm the worst, man. 22 years in the army, I probably have 4 videos and like 10 pictures.
10,
Um,
yeah.
when I'm out on horses, man, I'll try to take a picture of something that just doesn't look the same, and I erase them like fuck that. There's so many things that are just for me that I've seen that I can't capture and share that because it just don't look as cool. Um, so anyway, sometimes social media, I'm like, dude, what should I post? I want to do something. I try to be thoughtful, whatever. But at the same time, it's also like I have no clue why this many people follow me. Um, and it wasn't to be famous, wasn't for anything. My favorite thing about it, my personal social media is that like, man, sometimes I'm like, I don't give a fuck about Instagram. I don't care. And then I'll get like DMs from guys that say something like, dude, what the hell? Like, and at my age, I'm almost 45 and like I didn't even have social media till 2020. I didn't grow up with it. I didn't put stock in it, I don't give a fuck. But I realized like how much other people like they do give a fuck. They put stock in things. They do have a different version of heroes or people they idolize or workouts they see or tactics they see shooting or just people that have good messages. Like it really does feed it. And I take that stuff in from a lot of people too. Um, so it's more humbling and just heartfelt when I get messages from people and I'm like, damn, that's super cool, man. Like I'm just gonna keep like just doing me and trying to share what I'm doing to move forward as, a Green Beret. I'm retired, I'm a dad, I'm a husband, I'm just trying to make it. I've been through a lot of fucked up shit in my life. I've done a lot of fucked up shit. Like I'm not perfect. I'm just trying to be a better make my community better, but also almost selfishly to serve my own purpose, meaning like I need something to do. I have to have a purpose. And that's why sometimes I say it feels selfish in a way to try to help people. I struggle a lot with sharing what we do. Um, because I'm not a Navy SEAL. I'm not fucking Tim Kennedy. I'm not going to tell you how many things I've done and who I've helped and this and that. It's hard talking about it. Um, these women that we've helped, it's not my story to tell. On the War Party movement side of things, that's in War Party Ranch, that's the hardest thing we have in marketing is, we can't help a lady and then all of a sudden be like, look what we did. I mean, I hate when I see nonprofits do that type of shit or people do that, and it's fucking disgusting and gross. Um, so back to that, I never expected, this many people to want to follow me or whatever. When it comes to the Native community, people know who War Party is. Um, because of this, and this is the thing I'm the most proud of, is that it's purely through the work that we have done in the community. I've had people DM, I've had people try to cancel me, talk shit. I've had native social media influencers. Um, I had one guy that, hit me up and he was like, "Who are you? This is fake. What are you actually doing?" Funny thing is, I was actually on my way to Pine Ridge with a drone that I was donating to EMS to help do drone training and then get them a drone for their search and rescue team, and their firefighters are going to use it. And I basically just hit him up. I sent him a video. I was like, "Hey, bro, I'm on Pine Ridge. Like, you're more than welcome to come help me and anything I'm doing." So, like, I've been called out and called fake or called white or called this or whatever, but I don't give a fuck. And it's to the point now too where it's like I'm I'm a ghetto motherfucker, bro. Like I really am, and I try really fucking hard. And anybody who ever knew me is why we can get into this. My transition from third group to 10th group was fucking hell for me, man, because I hated those pussies in 10th group. Um, and yeah, straight up, bro. I was like I had a fucking shaving profile and a beard. I was like an angry black dude that slapped the fuck out of you. And and I carry that swag with me into what I do today as a man, as a father, as whatever, because I'm not afraid to get down, bro. Like I'm about that action 24/7, doesn't matter. Now, I'm not trying to say I'm like some Billy badass dude, but with that attitude has I've also brought that into the Native community and the people I work with, the swag the ladies have, the guys we work with. Um, and I've had everybody else tell my story. All the experiences that people that we've helped and the people that have been around me and the altercations or the incidents that have happened, search and rescue efforts or just facilitating things for ladies. They have told the story for me, and I'm very blessed to have that. I'm not going to tell a bunch of people a bunch of stuff. It you know people find out or people find out they do. I'm just really blessed to just affect the community in a way and in such a way that people want to support me and other natives want to support us, love what we're doing for the community. Um, an example is we just dropped I dropped the War Party Fight Crew. And what I really wanted to do was just get people into training and, just like dry firing your pistol, it's like you got to shadow box, you got to do footwork, you got to move, you need to do things to be prepared for the most likely scenario. The most likely scenario is 3 feet in under 3 seconds. And if you don't think you're not going to put your hands on somebody, you're not practicing the most likely scenario. So understanding these things is like a Green Beret and what we do. Um, I wanted to show people to like kind of highlight all the people who fight in that train. So that's where the War Party Fight Crew came about. And basically what it is just every month we're releasing a different volume. The first volume is for jiu-jitsu. I'm actually wearing the second volume. It's a Muay Thai shirt. Um, but that's just a way to say thanks, to all the people that are out there training. This first run we partnered with Res Dogs Jiu Jitsu. They're down. They're on the Taham Odam Reservation outside of Tucson, and it's this guy during COVID just started doing jiu jitsu, bought some mats, started jiu jitsu with the kids in the neighborhood because there was nothing for them to do in the community. They were just getting in trouble. To now he does all his classes and training at the rec center, and he's got a lot of really cool fighters, a lot of young teenage kids. They all wrestle in high school and they do jujitsu, and They just won a bunch of had a big tournament down in Phoenix this weekend and did really well. A couple placed first in their weight division. One guy was first in absolute overall. I don't know anything about jiu-jitsu. I'm not a fucking jiu-jitsu nerd. I like women. I'm not a homosexual, so I don't really care about the jiu-jitsu stuff. But um, no, it's my knock on jiu-jitsu guys. I like to hate on them because I suck at jiu-jitsu and I think it's gay. But anyway, I love what they're doing. This young man down there just doing amazing things in the community. So that's the type of stuff that that like I get more inspired by and makes me want to train and like tonight I'm going to Muay Thai sparring. Like I'm excited, like because I want to be better at these things. I want to live that. I wanted to create that war party fight crew just to kind of keep people inspired of like keep training, keep going. Each volume is going to be a different martial art. Just kind of honoring that and kind of going back to like that 80s 90s style of like when like cars were awesome, women were dope, guns were cool, smoke Marlboro Reds. Like there's no more man shit, bro. So I was just trying to bring back a little bit more like the man stuff, but also understand that like you know, my daughter's 8 and she's been training MMA for a couple years and like dude, women are badass too, and I train with ladies that are fucking badasses and it's nothing to do with just the man shit. But even those ladies I know and the women we work with War Party Ranch, they want to do these gritty tasks, these like warrior skills. They don't want to be treated like a lady and sew or beat or do whatever the fuck to heal. And those are all the people that I surround myself with. This is another way just to kind of highlight those folks through a t-shirt, through a cool design, and just to say like, hey, we want to be warriors. We want to keep pushing that mentality forward.
You can be a bad motherfucker. It don't matter who you are. You can still be a bad motherfucker. It is this what call like this calling that you're doing here, your purpose, right? You got to find your purpose. And it seems like this is something that you're called to do. Is this something like you feel you have to do it or you want to do it or some combination of that?
Both. Um, I feel a lot of I would say like my duty as well, kind of like a lot of duty. If we're going kind of like the Army values thing of that sense of duty, um, in a way to honor my parents, honor my daughters, honor my wife, honor, you know, the women of my family. Um, I think that's what it is. I think that I don't know. To me, I think it just happening. It's just organic. Meaning, in 2025, or 2020 when I retired from the army, um, it's like the social media age, the digital age, and a lot of things. And what's really cool about the time we're in is I'm able to affect a lot of things through social media and the internet and whatnot of motivating people and getting people together or assisting people that we never would have even been able to talk to or known, in another part of the country. Um, so I think it was, a calling is a good way, through a sense of duty in a way to honor my parents, really honor my mother, um, for what she did in the Native community, the type of warrior, the type of woman she was. And then as a girl dad, in a selfish way to raise my daughters in that same way to, they're all, shooting guns, doing jujitsu, Muay Thai, like they love it. I love it. And they want to do girls, they do girl stuff too. But um, yeah, I would say like a duty and honor, and it's giving me purpose to do something in life that is impactful. And now with that, what I was saying, in today's day and age, 2025, with social media, I can kind of take other people along a little bit of this journey. And what's crazy, man, this is the first time I really talked a lot about War Party on a podcast. Um, I struggle a lot, man, with the imposter syndrome or like I see guys on the internet, man, and they post fucking everything. And it's like a look at me, and then like, let's face it, Tim Kennedy's been a douche for fucking over a decade and we've all known that. And now it's like coming out and it's hard because it's like I don't want to be I I always make the Navy SEAL joke, it's like I didn't want to be like a Navy SEAL. Um, but now it's like I think there's definitely there's cool ways veteran community can navigate social media and be very impactful. The problem is oftentimes it's what we talked about. The most
most of the people are the biggest dorks, fake fraud, they're loud, they're this or that. They don't live up to what they say they do. Um, so for me, I struggle a lot with talking about War Party movement, posting on my own page, doing that because I do feel this heavy of like, look at me. Um, and I need to like just shake that shit off and like move forward. And know I'm gonna have people that hate on me or whatever. And it's not about what I think, what I guess it is about what I think people think about me, but it's not because I'm worried about them thinking something negative about me. It's that I'm worried about them thinking about negative about the work that we're doing in the community, or that I'm just completely full of shit and we're not doing anything. So that's why for me it's so important and so cool that there's so many people in the Native community that that will just outright, stick up for me, want to represent us, want to wear our gear, want to partner with us, want me and their network of people to rely on for certain skill sets, whether that's for training or for search and rescue, whatever it is. I'm kind of like I'm like an uncle to a lot of people, and I'm really okay with being everybody's dirty uncle on my social media page and uh, and running War Party. And I've been really shy of just kind of like letting both of those kind of blend in together and be myself. Um, some of it's, I'm not Indian looking enough. There's all these other doubts and things that's hard to navigate that I don't think a lot of people would quite understand. But it really boils down to I truly am, from the bottom of my heart, really trying to do something cool and in the community. And but I do a horrible job of fucking telling that story or showcasing that to people, and I really struggle with it. So I'd rather just make fun of myself or do something funny on the internet or whatever than always talking about War Party, and so it's kind of hard. And then, at the same time, you said, 10 times more likely to be murdered. You look at all the statistics, you look at everything. Those are my daughters, man. Um, so a lot of times it's hard for me to when I was in the army, I could turn off a switch and things wouldn't affect me emotionally. It was almost like, I don't know, the day I retired or whatever, maybe it was like a weight lifted off my shoulders. But the ladies that I work with, especially the Native ladies that look a lot like my mother and my daughters, sound like them, it's hard, man. Um, I care a lot. So I think it's hard for me to like show any of that because it is something that I do that is very heavy on me. Um, so it's hard for me to like tie it in, whether it's like a marketing strategy of like, hey, we got these new shirts, like sell this shirt, bro, like talk about it, like do the other side of War Party, which is the warrior side, which is like what I just talked about with the fight crew stuff. But the reality of it all goes into that, right? And it's jumping on the phone with the lady who needs help or their family searching for their niece or whatever. And when she answers the phone, she sounds like my grandmother. So those things are what's has really made me not want to tell the story as much, So yeah, kind of cool. Like I said, I don't really talk about it too much because of a lot of those things, and I just get frustrated, man, with seeing dudes just like constantly like, look how good I am, and I'm like, fuck, you suck, I hate that guy. But and I don't
No,
want to be that guy, I want the support to be from people because they know that we're doing good things, that War Party's actually doing good things. I don't want them to support me because they like me or they think I'm some fucking cool guy.
I know what you mean. And I had this discussion with another guy the other night. When you look at it, you can tell which side, because there's really, you can ride that edge, but once you go over the edge, it's all the way. You're
Hmm.
just lumped in, and you've got this portion where you look at somebody's content, and you go, yeah, that's fine. No, we're good. That's fine. We're good with that. And then it's really tough to define and put it into words. And I struggle with that because I really do care what people think about me. And I have a lot of people that, as I've started this, have messaged me like, don't go being like this person or that person. And I would rather fade away and into nothing and nobody ever hear from me again in this space than to make something that would make the people that support me feel weird or
I
unhappy with
agree.
what I'm putting that out. I'd rather
I
do
agree.
nothing and somebody else can go do it. And a positive light. That's why I try with the show and with the content and with every my guests and stuff. Positive, all positive. Shine no light on the up people that, and it's subjective for me, but a general sect of the population think that's unacceptable. No light towards that. So we go positive. The people that are doing the right thing the right way, and you talk about imposter syndrome. Fuck, man, everybody. That is the biggest question I get from people messaging me, or we bring it up on the show so much. And it's really, there's this inverse relationship, right? Of if you really belong there, if you truly belong there, you're going to feel it more than somebody that doesn't belong there because you're rising to this level, notoriety, fame, uh, influence, all these other things. You're rising to this level where you go, I can't believe I'm standing next to these people. I've been looking up to these people and now I'm here and I go, I don't fucking belong here. But you look back and then those people that are there, they see you come up and now they're standing next to them going, fuck, am I going down? Do I belong here? You
Yeah.
know? And it's just, it doesn't go away. And the people that don't belong there, that don't deserve it, that got, and it's, some people get stuff handed to them. That happens too, right? That's why people who win the lottery, they aren't fucking happy after a year. They
Yeah.
aren't. There's a chart and it's, uh, amputees. I believe it's amputees or paraplegics and lottery winners meet at happiness in 1 year on this chart after that because they've gained perspective of life is that's not me and this is I got handed everything I want and now there's nothing. I've lost my purpose and things like that. So yeah, it's tough. I tell people it's better to be aware of it being there and then you can manage it, right? And just like
Right.
I have the ability to fight and wage war on people, that is much better to have it, be aware of it, than not need it, than to not have it and be able to
You
manage it
need it.
all.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
if you
for sure.
know, you're like, I'm going to feel this way. Okay. That's good. I should feel this way. Why am I feeling this way? Oh, because I'm doing this. Okay. I'm having an effect on these people and these people look up to me and I can help these people. All right. Are my friends still good with what I'm saying? The people who have supported me this entire time, are they still good with what I'm saying? Okay. Yeah. All right. Let's keep going down this road. And if that starts to deviate or you feel your start to change, then the people that are really successful, that really do the best, you can't make the best for everybody. You can't make everybody happy, but the people that best are ones who can look on themselves and say, yes, I believe I'm doing the right way, the right things the right way for the right people and the right reasons, and then continue on that way. So um, I try to tell people not to get too hung up on that, but just make content and make product that makes you happy for the reasons that you started making it in the first place. If you talk to people, you're going to get better at it, and you get better at the social media, and you get better at all this other stuff, and and then I don't know. It all comes to I don't know because there's no finish line anymore, right? There's just like working towards being, as we said the other night in one of the shows, working towards being fulfilled. Like
Yeah, absolutely.
there's no happiness because happiness ends and then that becomes sadness also when that ends. But if you can just work towards being fulfilled, then I guess that's the goal. Content. I work toward more content because I don't feel a lot of things the same way. Maybe that's from some injuries or some just like dulling of the senses, but just to be fulfilled or content moving forward. Do you think like any of what you're doing now would have been possible if you hadn't have decided to enlist in the military way back when you did?
Oh, no, absolutely not. There's no I'm the man I am today just because of the things that I've done in my life. There's no way I could be doing what I'm doing right now, with War Party, you know, just everything. There's no way, you know, I wouldn't change it. Lots of sacrifices, 22 years. And I'm not some like amazing dad of the year or anything. Like, I have two older kids, man, that sacrificed everything for me to be a Green Beret. And, a lot of people don't know, the average soft guy's gone 280 days a year. And that's not counting, when you got to be and manifest at 04 and, come home at midnight or whatever like it. So I don't have a regret about the father I was to my older kids, but I understand that the sacrifice that I made for my whole family made for me to do the career I did. However, I also absolutely wouldn't be here where I am, be able to do the things I'm able to do today, be the person I am today with the life lessons and the skill sets that I possess if I was not in the military. Some of those are really stupid skill sets that I'll never use again. Um, you know, but some of them aren't, so but I loved it, man. Like again, for me, it was a dream. It was a dream as a kid to be a soldier. So I definitely wouldn't be who I am without being a soldier.
Yeah, you're right. Some of those we won't use again unless I get a job in demo. There's if I'm setting off C4, we're in trouble. Like,
Yeah.
we are in trouble as a society. Why did you choose to join the military?
Again, for me, it was just something I knew my entire life. If you asked me when I was 4 years old what I was going to be, I was going to be an airborne ranger. And I knew I was going to be in the Army the whole time. I knew I was going to do, I didn't know what capacity. My dad, he was the program director for Mercy Air in Las Vegas. And all his pilots were all these old badass pilots from Vietnam. They flew like LZ X-ray, all the MACV SOG dudes around. They flew, they're all the air commandos from the Air Force. The best pilots in the world, really. Like, just like, it's crazy. My dad loved hiring military guys. So I was around all these dope ass pilots and talking, and I thought I wanted to be a pilot. And there's a new they did a high school to flight school program, and based off of just like the letters of recommendation and what I could get done, I had a really good chance of being able to get into the high school to flight school program as long as I could like academically, pass everything. So what happened was when I was my summer between my junior and senior year, sometime in there, my junior year, I believe, my girlfriend got pregnant. So I was like, dude, like, scratch that. I can't wait to like try to do a flight packet. So my plan was I was going to stay in Vegas and go to college. I was going to join the National Guard, and on the I was going to join the National Guard on like the simultaneous entry, whatever it's called, like the early program. So I was going to be in the Guard while I was in high school. So I was going to join the Guard. As the Guard works, you only pick your job based like what's available from where you can drill at. So there's an MP company there. I was like, all right, I'll be an MP. So my plan was to either go to college and just dick around in like fire science or something, or criminal justice, and let the Guard pay for it, because in the state of Nevada they waive tuition. And then constantly work on my flight school stuff, and just, if that comes up, just leave college and bounce. If not, my plan B was to work for Metro, either be a firefighter or a cop. I wasn't sure yet. But I had good ties and good relationships with all of that through my father, through just what he did in the EMS sector. And my girlfriend got pregnant, and I was like, well, fuck, dude, I guess I'm screwed. So I got to get a job. I worked at the meat department in Costco for a little bit, cleaning the meat department. That was lots of fun. And was like, yeah, man, there's no way I'm going to be a civilian. Like, this is stupid. And I went from the Guard to regular Army. I didn't have a break or anything like other people did. While I was in basic training, I was able to do the switch. My dad was in the Guard. He knew, he had connections. So the governor signed my release letter while I was in basic training. And I just stayed in the regular Army. And I would say, man, I spent a long time in my military career, man, underestimating myself. Like at the E5 version, saw the E7 version of me, there would be I'm like, there's no fucking way that's me, dude. I'm not that guy. There's not a chance in hell. I spent my first 2 years in the Army at Fort Hood, Texas, and I might have saw 1, 2 guys with the Ranger tab. You might see like 2 lieutenants every now and then, or some of the Ranger tab. Mechanized. It was all 11 mics back at the time in the Cav units, and then I bounced around, did some PSD for a little bit, SRT stuff. I deployed, so I got back to me as an MP. I did so much extra stuff. It was basically like if they asked me to do it or a competition or whatever, I did it. I crushed. But I never saw myself as like again, if I saw a dude with the Ranger tab, I would think he was like 1,000 times more elite than me, and I could never be on that level. And even though I wanted to be like this badass dude in the Army, like I just I never was around it. It wasn't like I was at Bragg or Campbell and saw guys and like there's a recruiter there. There's nothing. There's no cool guys ever. When I was SRT, that was kind of the first time that I got to do some cool stuff. Fort Hood was an open post at the time, so we served a lot of high risk warrants and did a lot of like actual stuff. Had wasn't the first dead body I've seen. It was probably I saw a bunch of highs. A couple of my buddies got shot. But I had a kid commit suicide right there in front of us when I was on the team on SRT and on a call out. He ended up he was like dating a young girl and he had like child porn and some other stuff and when he's in his room and it's wild. But I did that and then I left. We did a deployment to Egypt right after September 11th happened to do force protection PSD on a bunch of dignitaries and generals and stuff when they had this big operation going on, big training operation. And then I went to Fort Hood, or excuse me, to Atlanta. I was stationed in Atlanta, Georgia for 2 years and I just did PSD there in Atlanta, Georgia. And it was really cool, man, because again, it molded me a lot for life as a man. I had a weird work schedule. Like if the boss needed to go somewhere, I went. If not, it was like, I didn't work, so there's times I rode motorcycles and I rode motorcycles all over Atlanta. I really got into like racing and street racing and just being wild, man, like riding wheelies for fucking exits and just me and my buddies were just wild. And I loved it because I was not around the military. All my friends were civilians. They were like firefighters and cops and like mechanics or welders or whatever the fuck they did. Like I just had buddies, man. They were all older than me by like 15, 20 years older than me, most of them. And I just kind of had that like big brother sense. I had like a lot of these OG guys around me and I was like 22, 23 years old. But at the same time, like the war started and I was like, dude, I got to get out of here. As much as I learned a lot of life skills and street smarts and things in that job, living in Atlanta. I went back, I re-enlisted to go back to Fort Hood. I went to Fort Hood and I was an MP squad leader. I did a year. I did 05 to 06 in Iraq as a squad leader. And then right when I got back, I got selected to be a drill sergeant. And I actually wanted to be a drill sergeant. One of my drill sergeants was one of the most influential like men I've ever been around in my life. And I wanted a way to pay it forward and be influential on other young men. So I volunteered to be a drill sergeant, and I was a drill sergeant from 07 to 09 at Fort Leonard Wood as an MP. And while I was there is where, they have sapper school there. And I met a bunch of the sapper instructors at the fight house and just kind of, I told my first sergeant, I was like, yeah, I want to go to sapper school and kind of find out that like you could just show up if you have all the gear and somebody doesn't make it or you do this, it's all based on like PT scores too. So like come blow the PT test out of the water and like you'll be number one on the list for as we bump guys. So knowing that, I went to sapper school. I think I had like a month left on the trail. Like it was like AIT, so no one cared. Went to sapper school, had an amazing time. I fucking crushed it. It was the first time that I'd been around like any like cool guys, like guys who had done hard shit. I was there with a guy from first group. I was there with 2 guys from Ranger Battalion. And like they couldn't fucking keep up with me, man. And I was just like, and to be honest, I've never, even when I did Best Ranger, I don't think I was in the same shape I was in when I did sapper school, because when I was on the trail, I didn't ride transportation. So everybody else would jump on trans and roll out to the ranges. I would ruck out to the ranges or run back from ranges. I would even we even had kids, like I would even run my platoon back. Like I'd carry a ruck and just run them back.
What year was this?
2009.
Okay. Yeah.
So like everywhere we went, I would just, it was 4 or 5 miles away. And, I'd look and be like, all right, pickups after chow at 8. I would be with my buddies and be like, hey, you guys good me stepping off at 07. I'll meet you at the range. By the time they got to the range, like I was there, with all my shit. So all I did was ruck and run, man, and do a ton of like pull-ups, push-ups, super functional stuff, rope climbs type shit. So when I went to cyber school, I was so worried about not being good enough, not being in good enough shape, that I just was like, I didn't know what to train for. I didn't know what to expect. I had buddies that went through and they're like, yeah, man, it fucking sucks. You're gonna be so damn hungry, so tired. The rucksacks are heavy as fuck. So I just prepared my body the best I could. And went to cyber school and just crushed it, man. The only thing I sucked at was the swim. I can't fucking, I'm not an aquatic motherfucker. I'm from fucking Montana, bro. I'm Indian. I don't fucking swim. And I failed the raft swim. So you make a raft out of your ponchos, you and a buddy, with your rucksacks with your ponchos, and make a raft. And there's a VS-17 panel on the other side of the lake, and it's so far away, like a full-size VS-17 panel. It's like you could like cover it with your finger, like when you look over there, you can barely see the motherfucker. And there's a clock on this side of the lake. It has, I think it's 45 minutes or 30 minutes. You have 30 minutes to swim across the lake, touch the VS-17 panel, get back into the water, and swim back. And the whole time, the SIs, the SAPR instructors, are just like bombing jet skis around you, making waves, going off jumps and shit. Yeah, I sucked, dude. I didn't make the time hack. And I just thought it was funny because they called me Superman the whole time before that. And they were like, we found Super Knight's kryptonite. It's water. So I never could have been a Navy SEAL. And if I aspired to be one, when I saw Charlie Sheen in the 80s. But cyber school was amazing. It was the most fun I've ever had in the Army. I would go back to cyber school right fucking now. It set me up for everything I ever did in my career. And I was very blessed to be able to go to cyber school first. So in cyber school, you have general subjects, which is like the first 2 weeks of where you're just learning all the skills it takes to be a sapper, from all of your mountaineering skills, all your knot tying, your mountaineering, to all your demo calculations and building demo, to, IED lanes, like everything they teach you there is during general subjects. It's based off a point system. So there's 1,000 points possible. You need 700 points to graduate. And there's 800 points possible during general subjects. And then you have to get 50% of goes, for 50% of goes on patrol, and just like Ranger School to an SUT to pass. So what's really cool is everything that you learn when you get to the patrolling phase, you do that on patrol. So like, let's say like I'm the PO and you're the platoon sergeant and we get a mission, it might actually be, like in the movement that we have to go down, we have to go through a ravine. So we have to rappel the whole patrol down a ravine, cross the river, and then Jumar up the other side. And that's something we did in general subject, and that's on your patrol. Or like your infill method will be helo casting. So like it's not like, whereas like SUT and Ranger School just sucked and there's like no cool infills or no cool shit you practice. Like Ranger School is like, we taught all these nationals mountaineering shit. It's like, what, fucking carrying this rope in this plastic trash bag around for fucking 5 days hasn't left my rucksack. Now it's just this 200 pounds of frozen rope is all it is, Whereas in cyber school, like every piece of kit that you get issued and that you're carrying around, all the special gear, you use it. So I went to cyber school, and then right after cyber school, I was done with being on the trail, and I went to Ranger school right after that. So it's kind of my pre-Ranger. And when I was at Ranger school, I was there with some guys from battalion and just lieutenants or whatever. And there was a 7th group guy there, in my squad in Darby phase. And he was even like, bro, what the fuck are you doing here? He's like, you need to go to selection. And I was just kind of like, whatever, and but right after Ranger school is when, so basically from September 2009, I was a tabless bitch. I went to Sapper school, and November 1st of 2010, I was signing in at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, to start the Q course.
You had to be one of the only MPs in the military with a Ranger and a Sapper tab.
Yeah, I think I was the only enlisted MP with both. There was a couple of my buddies went to Ranger school, a couple of my buddies went just to Sapper school, but and I know there was like some officers or something, but I don't think they were MP officers.
It makes sense though. Whatever, we're studs usually, but you know, if you're showing up to Sapper school and in those years, group was a pretty busy place. Like fitness wasn't like the first thing on the list. It maybe was like fifth or sixth down with deployment
Yeah.
schedule and stuff. So that makes sense that like Ranger and SF dudes are showing up, and they're probably still fitter than everybody else, but like not like we get when we're in the Q course or when you're at a regular
I mean,
unit.
I won't, like, looking back at all the things I've done to even include like, you know, competing in Best Ranger and stuff. I was in retarded shape, and like I was very close to being in that good of shape going into selection, and like selection to me was a fucking joke. The only thing that was like freaked me out in selection, like this is my selection story that freaked me out, was I don't remember if it was like day 1 or day 2, whatever day you take the PT test, and you know,
One, like zero, I think. I think
is it day
zero.
1?
Yeah.
Okay, so you know there's like 400 people there, and
Yep.
they're all on that airfield. And how we did it, I don't know if they still do it that way, but there's that clock at the end of the 1 mile. So you run 1 mile down, turn around, you run around the clock, you run 1 mile back. That was what we did for the PT test. And I've never been like super, super fast at the 2 mile, but like I in 2000, I won the Baton Death March individual heavy. 2001, I won 3rd place as a co-ed captain of a co-ed light team. Like I've run like marathons and races and shit. Like I feel I have a pretty good athletic resume when it comes to like those kind of things, but I've never 2 mile run wasn't my jam. I get down to like mid 11s. I could never break 10. And I always thought 10 was like elite. Like if you could run a 10-minute 2 mile in the Army, and you know, pass your push-ups and sit-ups, because a lot of those guys could run. Like when I was in drill sergeant, we had kids that could fly like the wind and couldn't do a goddamn push-up to save their life, you know. But anyway, so I'm in, and I know a lot about the PT test, and like just from being a drill sergeant, just like if this all makes sense to you, like, you know, I was a sergeant first class. I had to get a waiver. I almost couldn't go to selection because I got promoted while I was in Ranger school, or just after Ranger school. So I'm at selection day 1, and we're all lined up. We go, right? And I am probably maybe the middle, like more towards like the end of the middle, where the middle would be on this run out. And I know like I'm not gonna gas it, right? So right about a couple, maybe 100 meters, 200 meters before the turnaround is where like people are gonna hold that pace or holding that fucking pace. So I start really kind of passing people. I hit the turnaround, and I remember the clock on the turnaround. I was running. I remember looking at the clock, and I was like, "There's no fucking way." I was at 4:57 on the turnaround, and there was probably 150 dudes in front of me, and I was just like, "Man, I am so fucked." And I remember finishing, and there was probably I ended up running like a I ended up running like a 10:16, and there was probably 75 guys in front of me. So I was like, dude, I'm fucked. Like, holy fuck. Because there at Ranger School, dude, when I did the 5 mile, I ran like a 31 or something, or like 30, right under there. And I was like kind of the head of the pack. There wasn't very many guys ahead of me. Cyber School, my PT test, I ran like a 11:05, and I was the first dude done. Like, so this was like, holy fuck, dude. Like, I don't it was the first time, like, I never doubted myself, but I was just kind of like, oh man, dude, this is gonna fucking be hard. So I got in my head a little bit about just how many guys were ahead of me during that run, and how fast I ran, especially never being able to even break into 10s before that.
I did not run anywhere close to a 10. I think I was in, you know, the 12 somewhere, whatever, which is for you listening, kids listening at home, is fucking fine if you're running in the 12s. Similar story. I mean, I wasn't running that fast, but I went the first time in January of 2012, and the first group went 2 minutes ahead of us, and it was big. They broke us up into two, and man, that's the only time I was like, I don't think I belong here. In both classes, I was like, I don't think I belong here because this dude is so far ahead of everybody. He runs a 9-something 2 mile at a jog for him. And we didn't have, I don't remember a clock, and I don't remember us having watches either. And the only reason I told is because I guess the cadre were like they'd been trying to smoke this guy for months in SOPC, and they just couldn't do it. So it's just like joke. Yeah, he ran another 9-something 2 mile.
Oh
It's
yeah.
like, oh
Yeah,
yeah.
and I could be wrong. I could have swore there was a clock at the turnaround, but I do remember the clock at the end. I'm pretty positive because I remember running that, and I was like, there's no fucking way I ran a fucking 10, like almost like a 10, 15. It was like 10. I remember like watching it like tick like 16, 17. I was like, what the fuck? Dude. Yeah, I thought I was fucked, bro. Like I thought I was fucked. But
Everything evened out after that. But yeah,
yeah,
I remember that shit too.
And the reason why I say selection was easy for me, and what I always tell guys, like, and I work with a lot of guys now, training them and getting them ready for different schools and selection and whatnot, is like, there's definitely hard moments. Like, there's hard moments of the day, but like, after going through cyber school and ranger school, it was like, bro, I'm sleeping in a fucking, I'm sleeping on a bed, like a cot, whatever the fuck. I'm eating food, like, and it's hot food. They were going to the chow hall, and like, I'm like, I don't care what they do to me. You know what I mean? It was so crazy to me because I literally just suffered. It was so fucking cold at Ranger School and just dumb and like just shitty that like as long as I was going into a building, it was like, bro, they can do whatever like they want to do the rest of the day. Like I'm going to sleep. So it made selection to me that much easier. And then I figured out real quick, like after that run too, just talking to guys and like guys in my hut and stuff, that the x-rays, I'm like, they know everything. They literally know what's happening every single day, where they are, how far we're running, whatever. And before that, no one ever gave me G2. I didn't listen to any of it. And then I was like, after like a week of like every single x-ray telling you what's going to happen or like where are we going and it happening, I was like, all right, I'm just going to start listening to these dudes. They know what we're doing. So it seemed it seemed easy to me.
They had it figured out, but they are getting coached by the guys in front of them, the guys behind them, the cadre.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're with SF guys all the time. I mean,
Yeah.
until I got to selection, I had never seen a Green Beret. You're
Yeah,
getting very
I
little.
think I saw some deployed in Iraq, but like not like, uniform with the beret on type shit. I mean, I saw like, the ODAs run and they'd come in our camp every now and then, but I never talked to one, never, yeah, same. Other than the recruiter, I think the recruiter was the first Green Beret I saw. Actually, no, I went to air assault school with two fifth group guys. And I went to air assault school like the summer before I went to the same summer when I went to cyber school. And they were like, they too were like, I was like, yeah, I'm thinking about going to selection. They're like, dude, you should fucking do it. Like I crushed the Red March, I crushed everything. But I just doubted myself, man. I don't know, for whatever reason, I think that I didn't realize that the things that you do in these selection courses or that are even there are things that people do every day. It's not something that is unattainable. Every single course in the Army is based for you to pass. It's not based for you to fail. Like, they're going to give you all the tools for it. If you're in shape and you can just not go down the mental rabbit hole. And I tell guys all the time, I'm like, dude, I had no plan. I had no plan B. I know everybody says like burn the ships. And I'm like, bro, for real. Like whether it was cyber school, ranger school, selection, anything, it was like, I'm either going to graduate or they're going to zip me up in a body bag. And like, I have zero, nothing. And what people do is they rationalize a little bit about what could happen if they don't make it. It's like, yeah, your wife's still gonna love you, your mom's gonna love you, all this other shit, but you're gonna feel like a giant pussy and hate yourself and you fucking quit. I can only imagine the guys, like every single school I've been to, I watch guys quit. I watch guys physically ruin, some guys in cases ruin their career. I was at Ranger School with kids from Ranger Battalion who fucking quit in the rain so they get a slice of pizza and sit by the fucking fire. And and like they ruin their career. They ended, get sent somewhere else and go to the 82nd or whatever. And and now you're just known as a fucking quitter, dude. Like it's not when you look at the thousands of people who have done these courses, it's not that it's not unattainable. It just takes a little bit of like, you got to want it, you got to want to do it, you got to train, and it's going to suck, and you got to be able to like understand this is hard shit. But I will say that for me, um, I had the opportunity, when I was in E7, I had been a drill sergeant and I went through sapper school. So physically and patrolling and the presence, the frame of mind to be in Ranger school. I'd also been through like SLC, and like I knew how to write op orders, and I knew like I was a senior NCO. So I was able to also draw back from the suck. And one of the things we do as drill sergeants, which I thought relayed so much to being a Green Beret, was teaching. I'm teaching civilians to be soldiers, to teach them how to shoot, to teach them everything they need to know. There's no difference. There's just a language barrier now in what I'm doing with other people. And Rangers, so being a drill sergeant, because of the TRADOC rules and regulations, there's so many things you have to follow along, all these guidelines and things, right? Well, Ranger School follows in TRADOC, right? So they follow some of the same stuff, but it's a little more relaxed than privates. But they always have the right answer, right? Like they have, they have enough ice sheets, they have enough medics, they have enough IV bags, they have all the right things to show you what it takes to have 2 guys train 100 guys to be out there patrolling, teaching ambushes and doing all these things. So as a Green Beret, it was super important to see that, be able to pull back from the suck and see those kind of backside things, if you will, and how those things work, and see these 2 guys training all of us. Also to the super tired, super hungry, droning in the middle of the night. Look, like no bushy, man. I've been on missions in Afghanistan and Iraq working with my partner forces where it was identical to fucking Ranger School. Like it is like, dudes, they might not be droning, but they took the batteries out of their nods to put in their fucking discmen, so they're just walking off in this direction. You're like, bro, where the fuck are you going? Trying to trying to hurt the cats, it was so much of it was just like Ranger School. The other thing I thought was just like Ranger School was when you're reacting to contact, whether it's a drill or it's, in training or it's not. So all the guys that, go through SUT, you react. So there's only 2 things that happen when you take contact. You either break contact or you react and you maneuver and destroy the enemy. Period. That's it. You break contact or you maneuver and destroy the enemy. There's no thinking about it. There's no options fucking C, bro. You break contact or you maneuver and kill the enemy. So Ranger School and SUT and all those things just give you repetitive times where you see, shit, we took contact, lay down a base of fire, assess it. Okay, I'm going to flank. No, I'm not. I'm going to break contact or whatever. You just do these things over and over and over. And when you're tired and droning and hungry and all, your mind's not there, your body is just kind of going through these muscle memories and you're doing it. But there's times in real world in deployments where those exact same scenarios almost fucking unfold. And it's just a muscle memory, just like dry firing and doing things. The more you do them, the more scenarios you've seen, just like we were talking about cowboying. The more things I've seen horses do and cattle do and blah, 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 the more I get to be able to assess what I think the enemy is going to do or what they are doing, whether they're shooting blanks at me or they're shooting live bullets. Those are repetitions. And the guys who understand that and take that seriously, you see them progress in training and becoming a better soldier and really understanding all those things, versus the guys who take training as like a fucking joke and it's gay because we're shooting blanks or whatever, right? Those are 2 different type of soldiers to me. One's a professional and one's just a fucking cool guy.
Yeah. It's a real world. All this shit's to the real world application is to go deploy and kill people in real life or teach people how to kill themselves. But yeah.
Yeah, it was absolutely. And so I always tell guys, Green Berets too, especially, or just anybody in the Army, if you can go to Ranger School, go to Ranger School. So you teach you a lot about yourself. You're going to learn so much about patrolling and leadership. And they definitely apply to real world scenarios. It definitely does. There's a reason for it. You can read from Vietnam to now, guys writing, very articulate officers and NCOs who have written about Ranger School and how it specifically has, enhanced their capabilities, their lethality on the battlefield.
Yeah, my buddy Robbie back there wrote this whole bottom book is his fucking journey to getting his Ranger tab. He went 3 times, and I think 2 of them
Jeez.
had mountain phase or had desert phase in there. Like, Jesus Christ, Robbie. But
I was blessed, man.
um,
I went straight through. I got goes, and I was blessed, man. By the grace of
well,
God, dude,
I
wouldn't
mean,
want to recycle.
we're a little over 2 hours. We're first bringing it
Yeah,
up, but with a fucking mustache like that, I mean, dude, you got to be a first time go at Ranger School. Just like
yeah.
First Sergeant, who was that? First Sergeant Alvarez went from first group as a SF First Sergeant, and he had not that far out of
Yeah.
regs, but he went with an out of regs mustache and crushed Ranger School as a First Sergeant.
Hell yeah, dude. Hell yeah. No, I love
He's
it,
a
man.
bad man.
Hell yeah. Yeah. So I was, I was 29 years old. So I was born in 1980. So doing all this stuff, going to cyber school, I was 29. Selection at 30. Doing all that. So I was a little older, a little later in my career, but I did about 9 years total of conventional army as an MP. That 1 year in Iraq as a squad leader, and then the 2 years as drill sergeant. Those 2 years as drill sergeant was my favorite time in the army, man. I love being a Green Beret. Don't get me wrong. I served with the most amazing men. I walked among giants, man. There's some just phenomenal humans and most outstanding athlete, just animals I've ever been around. Um, but I will say that my most rewarding job I've ever done, I've did it while I was in the army, was being a drill sergeant. That was the job that gave me the most fulfillment and sense of accomplishment, um, more so than being on a team. Being on a team was amazing, and I had a sense of accomplishment that lasted. I let last for about fucking 10 seconds, and we just went right back to, yeah, I'm Green Beret, but so what, and wanting to just be the best I could be, and being humble, um, and understanding, I started over from scratch, right? Like, yeah, I'm an E7 with double tab E7 with combat experience, but I'm starting over from scratch here. So, I really admired the old Vietnam guys talking and the SAW guys talking to us about, earning your beret every day, and just because you got it, it doesn't mean anything. And I really took that to heart, man. And I took that, full, my whole career. But the 2 years as a drill sergeant was the most rewarding, man. It was so fun. I had a blast, man. I definitely can truly say, look back and be like, I poured my heart into those kids, and trying to prepare them for where they were going. We lost um, one guy in my company on my deployment. Joseph Graves was killed in Iraq, and then my squad, not my squad, a platoon in my squad was hit, and they had casualties. I think only one person in the squad wasn't a casualty in a mass cal. Um, and so it's kind of a big thing for me and understanding that, um, these kids are going to graduate and they're going to go be with me. And at this time, I didn't know I was going to go, be a Green Beret or whatever, but it's like, I'm going to be their fucking platoon sergeant, their first sergeant. Like they're going to go work for me and my people. And I need to give them as many tools in their toolbox and motivate them as much as I possibly can to try to give them some kind of a warrior spirit that they can take forward to their unit and be an asset when they show up, and not some dipshit private that doesn't have anything to give. At a minimum, as a private, you should be able to give your eagerness, your physical fitness level, your professionalism, and you don't know what you don't know, but that's fine. But you can't not read books. You can't not be into stuff. You can't not know answers to things. This isn't just for privates. It used to piss me off. Green Berets do it. Any piece of fucking kit you're wearing or you're around or you're touching and you can't tell me all about it, you're a fucking dirtbag. So when I walk up to you behind a M2 machine gun, I want to know what's it like. Ask a random dude, like, we can't do this anymore around the army. Yeah, it's like a random E6 Green Beret from wherever the fuck. Hey, what's the maximum effective range of that Mark 19 you're behind? Can't fucking tell you. Um, and just and I'm just calling guys out and showing that this happens in our own thing, right? Just because you made it somewhere doesn't mean that you continue to earn that beret and you continue to do that. It's easy to get caught up in the cool guy syndrome. And I didn't know any of this as a drill sergeant, but I just looked at it as like, these kids are going to war. They're going to go work for my friends. they could die. I want to give them everything they can and have, and show them how to study and be professionals and know these things so they can be an asset. And then in my career progressed, I take that forward, and it just something that drive me nuts, man. I just thought that, skill level 1 and skill level 2 tasks were so important, and we overlook them all the time. And everybody wants to fucking drive and shoot out of cars before we fucking can shoot on the flat range. And there's just too much cool guy syndrome around a lot of things in training. Um, and even more so now. I'm not on a team now, but what I see on the internet, it's fucking gay as AIDS. So there's that for you.
Geez, Sarge, you're making me feel like a shitbag. I don't know what I was like, I don't fucking know what the maximum effective range of that shit is anymore. And then I'm starting to I'm looking at all my stuff I have here, and I go, fuck, I don't even know how to use that camera over there effectively. Like, fuck, I guess I'm just a loser. No, but you continue to improve, and the best you do the best you can do. But you said when we first started recording, you knew when you were 4 years old you wanted to be an airborne ranger.
Yeah, I did.
And not the same as a Green Beret ranger qualified Green Beret, but it's got to be a pretty good feeling when they hand you the beret and you walk across the stage and you got relatively close to that little kid's dream. What was that like?
Yeah. So to be, kind of fair with my dream, my dad would always say, like, he would say, like, sing cadence, and he would say, like, airborne ranger. He would, like, say it all cool. And I didn't know about, like, Ranger Battalion. I didn't know, I didn't know there's a difference between rangers and that. Even being in the Army, when I first saw Ranger Battalion, I knew what they were. I was a brand new private. I did Baton Death March and White Sands Missile Range, and Ranger Battalion sent some guys out there to train for it, and they were all the guys that had got chosen to train for Best Ranger. So I've corrupt and competed against those guys, and they were like, it was cool. I'm just a regular Army kid, and we're all in the barracks hanging out. And I remember one kid he had a big jug of water, just a pound of water, just talking about Ranger, telling me a little bit of stuff. And I was like, oh, okay. That was the first time anybody ever told me that, like, just going to Ranger school doesn't make you a Ranger. Like, you are a Ranger qualified, you're a Ranger, but a U.S. Army Ranger is in, the Ranger Regiment in one of the 3 battalions. So when I fast forward to all that, I've always had so much respect. I'm not going to put us all on the podcast, but I almost thought I was going to get to go to Ranger Regiment after Ranger school, and some things have happened, transpire with the Sergeant Major channels and whatnot. Shit fell apart, and that's ended up how I ended up, going to selection. I was just like, I'm not going back to regular Army, man. So I never, and I had so many friends. I went through selection with a bunch of guys from regiment. I had so many friends and mentors, and my first team sergeant was a regiment guy and stuff. But I've never been that weird, confusing stuff, so I didn't necessarily take that with that childhood dream, what you were saying. Because when I was saying as a kid, I was more looking at I didn't know the difference. I was watching Ranger movies and, all this history of stuff. And I just thought they were kind of all the same, and I wasn't around special operations guys or something that was kind of, saying go to Ranger Battalion or anything like that. I was with the pilots, and a lot of the pilots have really cool stories, but they're just dropping guys off in the middle of nowhere, especially the guys that were my dad's, flying a lot of those cross-border operations and stuff. So to them, I think to civilians or just to general military people too, I think sometimes we use words improperly, like special forces or ranger, if you will. So no, I didn't feel that dream, because it wasn't part of my dream to be in Ranger Regiment, if that makes sense. It just all felt surreal, man. It was just like, I didn't, almost got kicked out of the Q course. So it was a lot for me, man. I just looked at it as, I just need to get the fuck out of here. I just want to sign into the 3rd group, dude. I fucking hated SWIC. I was just so ready to get out of there. So I didn't really celebrate or anything. It wasn't like I accomplished a goal. It was like, my goal was to be, to sign in the 3rd group was like my goal. So, so I've always just kind of been with the Army in particular, the accolades or the awards or schools, things that I've gotten. I've always just kind of looked at it as like, what's next, what's next, what's next? Because if that's a goal and I hit it and I just sit there stagnant, like now I'm not going to improve on anything. I'm not going to push myself forward. I'm not going to be able to AR myself and look back and figure out things I can improve on. I'm always going to look at, I didn't want to flip my idea of myself around and think of myself as this like hotshot dude, if that makes sense.
It does. It does. You know, you're looking at the next thing. Was third group everything you thought it could be?
Man, I love third group, dude. Yeah, I had a really cool experience in third group. Um, you know, third group had been going like 6 months on, 6 months off to Afghanistan. I mean, it was just these guys were hitting it, man. When I first walked into the hallway, um, so when I first get, going to group to sign in or whatever, it's like, you have Robbie Miller and like all these Medal of Honor guys and all the, you walk through the memorial park and it was surreal, man. Like, you're going to combat. Like, when you're in third group, like, you're going to somewhere where guys are getting hurt and jacked up, and killed. Even the Thor program, like, until I got to 10th group, we didn't use Thor. Thor was for the guys who were all shot up and hurt. Like, I'm not going to go work out with this personal trainer when, like, there's a guy where he's got his legs blown off and now he's pushing the sled with his new Tink Tink prosthetics, and like, I'm like, so it was a very heavy war culture. Um, the other thing was like, it wasn't drama. I'm not gonna say there was no drama, but like there wasn't a bunch of drama, man. Like if me and you had an argument, whether we're on the same team or a different team, we didn't like each other or was whatever. We fucking went out back. We punched each other in the face a few times. We drink a beer, we hug it out, and we never talk about that bullshit again. It is what it is. And I love that aspect of third group. Um, I went to Afghanistan and Iraq. I'm almost spent a year in Iraq, or excuse me, in Afghanistan, because when I first signed into third group, I went and I was supposed to go to first battalion. I went and signed into first battalion. They were forward. I got all my gear and was launching forward. And then on the plane, the group sergeant major was there on the aircraft. I talked to him for a little bit, and they had already pulled some stuff. They had fired a PSD guy over at Camp Alpha, and third group was tasked to replace him. Because of my PSD background and the stuff I did before that, sergeant major was like, "Hey, we're just gonna pull this guy. He's brand new out of the Q course, but fuck it, like it's PSD." So they were basically like, "Hey, if you go over here and you do PSD," so I bounced between like RTO and PSD for a bunch of different admirals, generals, and the Sea DeSoto commander. But the coolest thing about it was the sergeant major made a deal with me. He's like, "You do this job." He's like, "Just crush it for 6 months. I'll send you to fucking third battalion. You can stay in country and you can go to an ODA in third battalion." So the only NCOs in the camp were either CAG sergeant majors or like E8, E9 Green Beret sergeant majors that were like CRIF dudes, like Jason Ridings was the first sergeant on the camp. Like he taught at range 37. Like he's one of my mentors. Shout out to Jay-Z, just retired, just a phenomenal dude. And I basically like, while I was on the camp, these NCOs took me under their wings and all we did was shoot. Cause it was just like 5 E8s and like some sergeant majors. There's no team. So it's like all these old team guys and they have all this ammo and time. So we just go and I'd go through like mini Safawiks and like shit basically with them all the time, just clearing and shooting and moving and teaching me stuff. And the other thing I was really blessed with was I saw every single briefing from every special operations element in country, from the ODA, from the team level, whether that's MARSOC, the Army side, the Navy side, all of it, the SEALs, MARSOC, Green Berets, all the way to, what blue and green are doing. So what the Rangers are doing. So, and I've seen it at every level, team level, battalion level, company, battalion, on. And I got a really good understanding of the battlefield. I really started to see how like some ODAs could only, their white space was as far as their 240s and their mortars reach. Whereas like other teams really understand it very differently. They have a different environment and they create a lot of white space through human intelligence. Or like down in Panjway, the guys have zero white space because there's so many IEDs everywhere. So the tactics these guys are using and what's going on in different places, I'm understanding all 3 levels of the battlefield, how an ODA can affect all those 3 levels, or how battalions tie into that, all this stuff. I'm also seeing TTPs that work differently in different regions. I'm talking with guys. I'm seeing. I was an 18 Echo. I was seeing like other Echoes and other elite, comms guys at the Green, and like, what is this? How do you do that? I'm carrying around a bunch of special gear that I had to be trained to use, and it was cool, man. And what I did was, when I wasn't out with the boss, soaking up that information and providing security and comms for him, was I would just seek training. So I ended up getting my hands on a bunch of like, ATAC stuff where it was dropped, and like drones and different things that we're using now that are way more modern. So when I went to my ODA later on that year, I brought all that stuff with me. My team sergeant thought it was awesome, because I was just like, yeah, I know how to run this. I'm a JFO. I'm JFO. I was out doing fire stuff. I would go on certain missions, working with the JTACs and the guys in the strike cell. So I had a lot of experience. I just tried to put myself in as much combat experience so I could be the best new guy on the team I could be. But also, I'm a senior NCO. I've been in the Army at this point, 12 years with combat experience. Um, so I brought a lot of the drone stuff to the team, and we worked through that. And it was just an amazing experience, man. So I spent, 11 months there, and then we redeployed. And as soon as we redeployed, I started training and competed, and then ended up competing in Best Ranger in 2014 with my Ranger buddy, Chris Carlson. And then, yeah, so
Was
I
that
had,
a volunteer or voluntold
yeah, it was a
assignment?
volunteer. We wanted to do it. It's something him and I talked about doing, or I wanted to do. And, um, you know, um, I just found a partner, and we trained, and we sucked. We didn't do great. No, we did really well. We were kicking butt. It was the first injury I've ever had. I've been super durable my entire career, but I tore a tendon in my foot during Best Ranger competition, and it was the only thing in my life I ever had to like quit. The first sergeant wouldn't let the medic see me until I said I quit, and I was like, "Bro, I just bring the medic over here. Like, something's wrong with my fucking foot for real." And they was like, "Do you quit?" And I was like, "Fuck no, I don't quit." And I was like, "This is stupid." Like, I literally just wanted like a professional to be like, "You're being a pussy," or like I was kind of like, "How bad is it if I continue on with this and finish this?" Well, like, and my buddy's like, "Bro, I'm pretty sure it's like balled up into your ankle. Like, pretty sure you're fucked." So it was just kind of like, but anyway, great experience. Shout out to anybody who's ever done Best Ranger or does it. Those guys are animals, man. You CrossFit Games are the fittest people in the world. They're fucking book full of shit. It's the guys who win Best Ranger every year. But that was the kind of attitude I was around in third group, man, was just guys who were just hitters and constantly chasing that. And then we did a trip to Iraq in 2015, fighting ISIS and going after Daesh. And that was a ton of fun. Crazy, crazy mission, Green Berets shit. It was so cool, man. That was my favorite deployment because we really got let loose on a lot of things. And being from third group, we were there with a couple other groups as a first group team there, and they were kind of like bewildered at like how the fuck we were doing operations. And it was because we had never been on a J set or done anything ever in third group. Like, this was like guys in the early 2000s that had been on J sets. So you're talking like sergeant major level who've never done a J set or anything. Everything we've ever done, and not that Iraq was a J set, but what I saw the difference from 10th group and interacting with that first group team that was there in 2015 was they don't know how to tie everything to combat operations. They know how to tie everything to JSET operations and how to tie it to training stuff. Whereas we know how to tie every single thing I want to do to force protection or the XYZ, whatever the gray area is, and how you connect dots to send in ConOps, was something that I think third group guys, became experts at through the evolution of the war, right? Like, my team sergeant was in the era where they would just call the Taliban and tell them where to meet them and drive to the middle of the valley and then get in a gunfight. Whereas, like, as it advanced, like, and there's other guys who would just like go do KLEs or go to a village just so they'd get in a gunfight. And as things advanced, it got to where like we're out here running, 100 commandos at a time, be big elements, like these major operations that take all these, they say it's a one slider, but it's got 10 attachments to it on this con op. So that evolution through combat guys in third group were always really good at finding out ways to get outside the wire and go do their job, with regardless of the restrictions and the what, how people say my hands are tied, my hands are tied. We're really good at figuring out ways to do that. So that was really cool about 2015, was us just doing that, working. I was partnered with the CTS, the Counterterrorism Service, for Iraq. I worked with, hand in hand with like 2 Iraqi 3 and 4-star generals, and did my thing, and did a lot of really cool missions with them, and a lot of like I said, real Green Beret stuff, man. Just a lot of human, just working your, just building relationships. I don't want to say like working your sources. I mean like using your relationships, and really like by with and through, and motivating these guys and training with these guys and helping them really, be the forefront of fighting Daesh, and help give them the confidence through your training, through the guidance you're giving them, through the assets you're giving them, the air assets and the intelligent assets, and the things we're able to bring to the battlefield for them. That was a very rewarding and super cool mission to be a part of, and to work on with my ODA.
So third group, you feel like, and this is going to change based on your group, based on when you were in, what your mission is, what you're a level 2 or you're a level 3 or whatever the fuck, all these different things, right? But obviously,
Absolutely.
you've been preparing for patrols or raids or combat all these years in a row, and now you get to do it like right as everything comes together. So for you, being a Green Beret was this build up to getting to do it, and then getting to do it at a high level. And that was like the job. Do you feel like that was the job that
Yes,
you set out to do?
absolutely. I think that I wouldn't have been able to help my team accomplish what we accomplished in 2015 if I didn't have the experiences I had. Because when you were saying, all this stuff about patrolling, just being like, like I do feel like I should be a subject matter expert in patrolling, right? And I did us all with commandos in Afghanistan. We did all these raids and clearing operations, and so I've saw it like I led it at the tactical level as being like the guy who's in charge of Alpha Company, and I'm physically leading the Alpha Company, as like the main effort, or I'm SE1 with 3rd Platoon or whatever. So I experienced that at all these levels, saw these briefings, did all these things, did PSD. One of the things I really understood about PSD, and what I really understood as a Green Beret doing it, was even more so was like, they're just normal dudes. Even more so for the team guys. When you're talking to Admiral Kilrain, this dude used to be on fucking blue. He used to be a badass operator. Everyone who talks to him, and I see in the briefings, everyone who talks to these generals and these admirals, all they do is jerk them off and tell them what they want to hear. There's like hardly anybody who like tells them exactly what's going on. Like it's all these officers playing officer fuck nuts, and they're trying to like get themselves promoted to whatever. And then the E8s or E9s who do talk are trying to make E10. So it's like, it's a bunch of mumbo jumbo a lot of the times, man. So what I really took pride in was just being normal, talking about football, talking about wife and kids, talking about home, talking about cool shit, working out with them. Like, hey, Sergeant Major, you going to the gym tomorrow? Yeah. All right. What time? 05. All right. See you there. Whatever. Just being like bringing back some of that team guy feeling to them who had been removed from a team for X amount of years, 10 years plus, whatever it was. And taking that forward into Iraq. The funny thing was about Iraq, while you were saying like, that mission set, why it was so cool to me, and even, my award that I got there, it's probably my favorite, the coolest award I've ever gotten. The one that means the most to me was the one that I got in Iraq, and it's not a valorous award. It's not anything like that. It's a DMSM. I think it's a pretty high like award you get that's not for combat operations. And I got that for working out of the embassy. And it was funny because when we started, we didn't even have a place to live. My team started and said, I'm going to send you up to the embassy. I just need you to do your thing. Whatever, figure it out. And I need to partner with the guys up at headquarters. So I get there. I didn't have a place to live. By the time I left, I had my own vehicles. I had vans for the boys. I had apartments for the boys. I had an office on the same floor as a chancery. with the window right next door to the DCSO, the third group DCSO. The other, if people don't know what DCS, what is that? I'm saying it right? Not DCS, DCSO or
The deputy commanding officer?
the deputy commander officer. Yeah.
DCO.
DCO. Okay. So my office is right next to the third group DCO. So my plaque on my office in the chancery, and I'm not there. I'm there a couple hours a week maybe, but on my plaque, it just says, Jeremiah Wilber, 3rd Special Forces Group CTS advisor. I would no bullshit have like full bird colonels and lieutenant colonels like knock on my door, like, excuse me, sir, do you have a minute? And like come in and sit in my office and like talk with me about shit. It was bananas, bro. No one knew I was 87. They were just like, do your thing. We'd have days in the embassy because I was kind of operating in and out of the embassy, going out, traveling all over Iraq and doing my thing. But my primarily guys I was working with were lived in Baghdad. So they would have like uniform days at the embassy where people would have to wear their uniforms and stuff. And I never did. I would just wear a suit or whatever, and they were just like, yeah, do your thing. Don't worry about it. People thought I was like a contractor. Who knew, what I was doing. But that to me was so cool because I was literally like smoking cigars at night with the ambassador and influencing conversations and having my input. I used to catch, so the ambassador used to live close to my apartment, and I used to time him. I would sit outside and watch him, and I'd watch him walk from his house to the chancery, and I'd catch him at the same time so I could walk together with him for a minute or two. And he'd always see me. He'd ask me, hey, how the commandos doing? How this? And it would be my moment where I could insert something I know no one else would tell him or no one else was trying to get him in on to get it in there. And the next thing you know, it's like my captain or my team sergeant or me are in the office with the ambassador or with General so-and-so talking about, hey, what is this radios you were talking about? Oh, this radio. It's called the RO radio. I wrote a white paper on it. Here you go. This is how we can use it. Things like that and then seeing how, my 18 Deltas have questions. They're trying to set up a Thor program for me being like, just networking that SF guy stuff. I'm like, oh shit, I know you need to talk. You need to talk to this doc. She's the one who's really in charge of where the money goes for these guys for rehabilitation and fixing them. So being able to just like network and having things affect, all levels of the battlefield, when I say all levels, I'm trying to describe this in kind of our model, our green, amber, red model is like all the partner forces we work with, we line them out in that model. So green, they're in combat operations. Amber, they're in, collective tasks and augmenting operations. And then the red cycle, they're in taskings and leave and all those kind of things. So with looking at it in that way, we always have all these guys cycling. We have this stuff going on during this deployment. But you're affecting like peacetime operations for them too in a heavy way, just like we get affected. Like I said, Thor for us is a huge program. So all these commandos getting shot up and getting hurt in Iraq, being able to help our Deltas trying to put a program together to help rehab these guys and get them back into the fight is huge. So it might not be actual combat operations, but then like you're doing that on Monday and Tuesday, and then Thursday, Friday, you're jumping in aircraft flying up to some other place. So it was the coolest Green Beret mission that we did, just because of true epitome of one day you're in a suit being a diplomat, the other day you're cool guy as shit, full kit, sleeves rolled to your elbows, rolling out with a big dip in your lip with a bunch of commandos, so and advising them and helping them fight these terrorists in their country.
Listening to that and then hearing you describe it and like the way you go into what you were doing, Aaron, I find the behind the scenes stuff is more rewarding to me, like doing all this and having all the people that you work with and the network. I think but you're describing it, I'm like, yeah, you just duplicated it now with what you're doing with War Party Movement and War
pretty
Party
much.
Ranch. You took that best part that you liked the most out of the military, and you're like, I got this new purpose, and I'm going to do that in the real world behind the scenes with all these people and running this new mission. That's pretty cool to hear. Like that was it. The government gave you the skills, and we said, fuck the government. But the military,
no, sure.
The military group, SF, and all led up to that, got you all those skills, and you go, I'm going to use this to better my community, my section. It's really cool.
I appreciate that.
It all
Yeah.
leads to that, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's fucking great. That's fucking great. But why, you do all the stuff in third group? Is it just because you made 8 and they moved you around to
No.
10th, or?
No. So my mother was really sick.
Okay.
My whole military career. My mother passed away really young. Um, she died in 2019. I my brother, we were looking at like, what can we do to get for my parents? My mom does better in the summertime when it's not as hot. She was living in Vegas. One of the reasons my dad wanted to move to Vegas, find a flight nurse job there when we lived in Montana, was to get her out of the snow. She had rheumatoid arthritis really bad, and basically all the medication they gave her like destroyed her immune system. So she ended up with like lupus, Guillain-Barré, like all the autoimmune disorders you can think of, is why, ultimately down that road through those medications. However, that being said, I wanted a way to get closer to my family. And what we're gonna do is I was just gonna my brother and I were talking about like getting an apartment for my mom and dad in the summertime in Colorado, and then they can winter down in Vegas. So because I worked on Camp Alpha and did all that before I went to my ODA in 2013. I was good with the group sergeant major, the whole command team. I mean, I was their like right hand man, dude. And sergeant major was like, I'm not gonna say he was my boy, but not like that. Like he was my group sergeant major. Like I never, used a favor. I never fucking complained. I never narked on him. I didn't give a fuck, dude. He was my group sergeant major, and and but I had a great relationship with them. The command came to Iraq for a visit, and they came and ate with us, and we're just shooting the shit. And my team sergeant already knew that, and he worked up at Group Hayward. He ran the Group Med, and he was just like, "Yeah, dude, if fucking Reary says whatever, just like talk to him." Normal. And Sergeant Major Brian Reary was the one who was like, was talking about. He's like, "How's your mom doing?" I was like, "Man, she's not doing good. We're thinking about maybe Colorado. They have medical marijuana. She can use that." And he was like, "I'll send you to 10th group, dude." And I was like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, man." He's like, happens all the time. He's like, "We just had a guy in 7th group. His wife got hit by a car jogging, got killed. His family's down there in 7th group. Her family's down there in Florida. So to keep him on a team and to keep him working, we're just going to switch him to 7th group. It's too easy." So all the sergeant major stories I've ever heard, all the bullshit that's ever been done to me by sergeant majors and things I do know, after knowing this and having this experience, I know that they are all full of fucking shit. And I'll get into this later when it comes to E7 and E8 slating. So he said, "When do you want to go?" And he's like, "Want to leave now?" I was like, No, I want to finish out deployment with my boys, and then I'll go. 10th group was also changing to take over Afghanistan at the time. So I figured, I was like, well, shit, I'll for sure like just be going to Afghanistan, right? Like nothing's going to change. I know they even said they would like to have senior NCOs over there and more, combat experience, right? To send these guys to Afghanistan. So we get back from, and literally I'm still in Iraq, 2 emails, bro, or 3 emails. It was Group Sergeant Major it was Brian Reary to Lou Polka, 10th Group Sergeant Major, Group Sergeant Major. It was, "Hey, I got a guy. He's a stud. He speaks Russian. Give me a little bit of my resume." And then that was it. And Lou was like, "Yep, I'm good with it. Send it to Edwards." What does Edwards think? Next, First Civco Sergeant Major, 2 sentences. Yep. And then it was like, and they all, I knew Reary and I knew Edwards. And they knew me. And Edwards like, "Oh, yeah, Jeremiah's a stud." I think he literally was like, "Jeremiah's a stud. He'll great asset to go to 10th group." And then the next email was to S1, cut his orders. And then they emailed me, S1 emailed me, was like, "When do you want to go there?" And I was like, report date September. That way I could like take a leave and stuff after
What year is
deployment.
this?
16. Yeah. So that was that easy. And then I get to 10th group. I thought for sure I talked to a couple of buddies that were there. They were like, 2nd Battalion's going to Afghanistan. So I thought for sure I was going to go to 2nd Battalion. I was like, yeah, I came from 3rd group. No, bro. Send me to 3rd Battalion they were in Africa and they also do all the European stuff. I'm not going to lie. Like I had a bad attitude. Like I learned something very early from those sergeant majors I was telling you about when I worked doing PSD. One of the guys there told me, he said, one of the most important lessons you learn as a Green Beret is always understanding your operational environment. Meaning, sometimes you need to roll your elbows, roll your sleeves up to your elbows to be a cool guy. Sometimes you need to be in a uniform and it needs to be AR 670-1, everything perfect, haircut, everything. Sometimes you need to be in a suit to be a diplomat, all these different things. And understanding your operational environment. I thought I did a good job of that. And I didn't with my attitude, though, because I went to 10th group. I was in this hallway full of all these murderers and hitters and dudes who are like-minded like me in 3rd group. And I get to a place in 10th group where they're not the same way. They're physically and mentally not, because they had not been to combat. Like, every single dude in my hallway has massive TBI issues and all kinds of crazy shit and been to combat multiple times. I get to 10th group and there's like a couple of guys on each ODA maybe that have been to combat. And at that time they did a 2013 trip. So there's a handful of guys in the ODA. And not saying they weren't hitters or, boys are boys, right? But the attitude there was very like high school girlish, man. Like, everyone knew each other in the hallway, everyone gossiped, and I just wasn't about that life, bro. Like, I'm not. And I know I got kicked off. I went to an ODA. I was there for like a month. I got into the team sergeant. I got kicked off the ODA and sent up to S3. But it was also, all that was a blessing in disguise, because I had gone through all this ski training and learned a bunch of stuff. And then I went up to S3. I worked there. Funny thing, it was they like shit canned me. I go to S3, I ended up becoming the S3 ops. And I was even, doing S3 ops sergeant major work all the time when sergeant major was gone. And then I got to pick which ODA I wanted. So, like, as a team sergeant. So, which was really cool. I got hand selected to be a team sergeant, pick which what ODA you want. And so I got to be team sergeant mountain team. I was team sergeant of 0312. And we were tasked with countering Russian aggression above the Arctic Circle. So I would say the coolest mission you can have, or one of the coolest missions you can have in special operations that's not in direct combat, or, not doing that, was that Arctic mission. We partnered directly with all the soft elements from, Norway, Finland, and Sweden. Me and my guys all went through special operations Arctic warfare school in Sweden. We've got multiple jumps, above the Arctic Circle, negative 40, 50 degree weather. Just super cool training, real world training for scenarios on certain op plans. And, working with our partner forces up in the north. Amazing time. And like I said, I got paid money to ride snowmobiles and ski and do all that, and gave me a really cool skill set. And at the same time, when I was a team sergeant, I was able to pass on a lot of that, like, warrior mindset and a lot of stuff. And it was hard. I had a lot of, I want to say leadership stuff, but my leadership style, I toned it down a little bit and try to adjust fire from, being too aggressive when I first got to 10th group. But it was hard to navigate the softer, quite frankly, guys that I had on my ODA. And just the mindset, right? And the other thing about special forces that people don't realize, it's not just a group thing. If your team sergeant is a badass, if you told every fucking team sergeant to get in a pair of Ranger panties, no shirt off, and stand in front of his door, and you get to pick which team you want to be on based off the way the team sergeant looks, I guarantee if you pick the one that looks the badass, you're probably gonna pick the right team. Very rarely, sometimes there's an asshole who's just an in-shape fuckhead. But we talked about this earlier. Walks like a duck, talks like a duck's probably a duck. You got a 37, 38-year-old man that looks like he can kick your ass or can hang with you. That's the guy you want in your ODA as your team sergeant. So I always say that ODAs go with how their team sergeants go. You're going to have studs up and down the hallway on each team, no matter what. But if the team sergeant doesn't make guys ruck and run and hammer them and do things, they're not going to do it. And no one wants to ruck and run. And I know that about Green Berets. So yes, I was a team sergeant and we fucking ran to the drop zone. We jumped and ran home or rucked home, or we rucked to fucking Cephalic. My first day as a team sergeant was a Thursday. We start Cephalic on Monday. Very first thing I did was set out all their kit. I said, your kit will be set up like mine. Not Ranger shit, not anything else, but if the most elite unit in the world does it, we're going to do it too. My whole thing is, I don't care what's on your kit, but you need to be able to like climb walls and work out with it. It needs to be functional. But I also like, what does that do? Why is that there? If you can't answer it for me, take it off. You're not using it. Like, give me a reason for it. And as we go through Cephalic together, you want to improve your kit in a certain manner, the way you carry your shotgun or whatever, go ahead. But I'm telling you, this is the best way to do this versus my experience. I'd also been through, multiple schools and done things to this point of being a team sergeant. And I told the guys that, all right, and this is my rule too, that I'm big on even to this day, man. I hated it about the regular army. I hated being 10 minutes prior to the 10 minutes prior to the 10 minutes prior. And I told my guys, 06 to me is 06. It is not 5:59. It's not 6:01. If everybody's ready to go at 5:55, but the hit time is 06, we're not leaving until 06. I hate that shit. We're not, doesn't mean we're waiting for you either. I hate that shit too. A hit time is a hit time, bro. And there's a reason. If you get away from that, then you stop understanding the importance of hit times, right? Like, the reason why we write these in our ConOps and our operations, like, sometimes you need these, they're critical. So anyway, I told the guys, hey, at 6 a.m, I want to get in a truck and we're going to drive there. We'll drive straight there. And I told my Fox and my senior Charlie, who was my hitter, and told them, they're like, all right, roger that. At 5:59, man, I walk outside the back docks, and every ODA is doing it. They're fucking scrambling, dude. Motherfuckers are throwing shit in trucks and trying to get shit going. And we still had time. But I wanted to leave when I wanted to leave. And I said, park all the trucks. Let's go. And I fucking put my rug on, and we ran 5 miles out to the range. Day one of fucking Cephalic. Shot all day, and we fucking ran 5 miles back to the ODA. That was my first day, like, actually as a team sergeant. And I say that because I led the run. They ran at my pace. We did what it was more of, just not a fuck you, not a hey this, but it was, I wanted to show my guys that I am physically capable of doing this job. I'm going to lead you from the front. I will always be the one who puts myself in danger first. I'll always be like, I wanted to show them that I was that guy. I needed to get these guys confidence. They don't know me from Adam. I'm just this new team sergeant who showed up, And I really wanted to set that precedence in Cephalic and have fun doing it, And what was funny was the guys just loved it. They thought it was fucking awesome. And Green Berets are Green Berets, man. I think we all share that sense of, want to put war paint on and low crawl through shit and do that kind of stuff. So, I think at first it was kind of like, are you fucking kidding me? And then it was like, oh, fuck yeah, he's fucking for real. And it turned into, like, literally a minute into that run, it was like, this was the team sergeant that a lot of the guys were waiting for. And we've, those are things that the guys told me, later on and stuff, which was really cool because I wanted to have enough left in the gas tank when I was a team sergeant to be able to, I wasn't the best, but I could smoke the dudes and stuff and hang with them and push them pretty good. So that was really cool to do. And just such a blessing, man, to be able to do that. And the cool thing about it is, to this day, guys, I was their team sergeant. Now they're an 18 Fox or they're Zulus or whatever. They call me all the time to come out and train them. I do a lot of avalanche training and ski training and snowmobile work or just patrolling. And they bring me out. I'm headed out to Colorado in December, already lined up to train with an ODA. So that to me means more than anything those guys could do for me, just because it means that, I must have made a little bit of impression on them in some way, even if it was that I was a fucking hard dickhead. But it's cool to be invited back and to work with the boys and to help out the regiment, continue to help out the regiment and share some of my expertise and things I have experience in with them.
Well, yeah, I mean, listening to your story, a couple of years ago, hearing that, I'd feel like such shit after we'd speak, because I couldn't hear guys' combat. I'm like, man, I didn't do jack shit. Like, fucking, I didn't. And now I've come to this realization. I'm like, I don't know if I left group any better than when I got there. Like, did I improve special forces? No, probably not, because I just did not have the time or the reach to make an impact. But I do now.
Right.
Now. And I'm like, "Ooh, what can I do with this?" You know? "Oh, I can talk. I can tell people stories. I can get
Absolutely.
their stories out of them because I find it much easier to talk about other people's stuff than it is to talk about mine because there just wasn't any. Like, it was all trying to get there, and then it was over. And it's like, "Oh, yeah, I supported. I did all this cool stuff that is cool to this, but I didn't get to do what I wanted. But now I can do a version of that. I
Yeah.
can have these
No, I
people
agree.
on and tell their stories."
It's hard, man, especially, all the war heroes and badass dudes that have served and the amazing guys I've been around and things that they've done, and um, it's hard to look at your career, regardless of how long, how short it is, and feel rewarded, or feel like I would say, to feel that the Army gave you what you gave the Army, because it never did. I don't give a fuck if you're in CAG Sergeant. I have one of my buddies, retired CAG Sergeant Major, and you know, the Army's never going to give you what you gave the Army. It was the boys that were around, and all those things. Um, and it's easy to, path of least resistance. The least resistance is the bitch and complain and not be enough and woe is me. And it's so easy to do that. Like, you can see one wrong fucking Instagram reel and become a fucking homosexual the rest of the day about in a bad attitude, right? Like, we let things affect us way too much, because it's easy. The hard thing to do is to have gratitude, find the good things out of those. It's just like doing an AAR. You do an AAR, it's easy to get dudes to pick it to fucking pieces, but it's really hard sometimes to get guys to 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 talk about the good things or the things we can build on. Hey, it might have been a total train wreck, but there's got to be something in here we can pick to build on as a team, or whatever that element was, to improve on, right? And I think that because we're just so ingrained in like the negativity, it's just so natural to like woe is me yourself. And then back to the imposter syndrome, adding, sprinkling a bunch of that in there. Um, and I hit it on the imposter syndrome real quick. There's no one that I hang around with. I thought about this when you were talking. I don't know anybody that I enjoy being around or like to be around or want to be around or call my friends that don't have imposter syndrome. Not fucking one. Not guys that have won world champions on top of fucking Bronx at the NFR. Not one. They all have imposter syndrome. And I think that just speaks for itself. And I think when you sprinkle that imposter syndrome in there, I think that it's easy to look at your career, no matter what you did, how long or how short, to feel that you could have done more, could have been this, or could have been that. And that's just as humans looking back and playing that armchair quarterback and, could have zigged when you zag type of thing. Right. So I think especially too, as a Green Beret, it's one of those things that, um, unlike the other special operations guys, I like to think of us as a more well-rounded fighter. Meaning, like, let's take like a MMA analogy. You know, if you can be really good at one aspect, you can be really good at jujitsu, but if you can't get the fight to the ground and the strikers beat the shit out of you, then it doesn't mean anything. If you can be a really good striker, you can be Israel Adesanya, but you can also get held on the ground by Jan Bohovic for fucking 25 minutes, just like we saw the other night. Those things happen because of you're not a well-rounded skill set. And in other soft elements, they don't necessarily have to be as well-rounded as we do. What I mean by that is they can generalize in a lot of specific things. Being a Green Beret truly is like, jack of all trades, master of none. You're just a little bit good at some shit and you're doing a lot. And with that being there, I think it's a thinking man's game. You have to have a really high fight IQ to be a really good Green Beret. And I'm not saying that you don't in the other aspects at all. What I'm saying is the guys I served with, because I wasn't a Ranger, I wasn't a SEAL. I know what good Green Berets are, and they're all very intellectual human beings and guys that really understand humans and humanity, and just super smart, intelligent guys that have a lot of very, very good people skills. And I think that your service and your service towards that, whether your body's tore up, you got shot up or whatever, when you think about it as a Green Beret and the skill set you have so much at your disposal that has to do with all the things you learn mentally, as a Green Beret and what you're able to accomplish. So I think that what you said, hits home. It's like, regardless of what happened in your service, now you set yourself up through your service and through, you have your foot in the door, just like I do, to say I was a Green Beret, right? Like, that gives me instant, like I hold you at a certain standard, right? Like I automatically going to put you somewhere, and it's up for you to, go above or below that standard. But as soon as someone says, "Hey, they were a team guy," okay, cool. I talked to a guy for 2 minutes. I know what kind of team guy he was based off of, how much of a douche he is and how much he isn't. But, but no, just being funny. But with that experience, you're using your team guy experience, what you're doing now, to be able to articulate and showcase that and tell these stories of people and motivate guys. I've seen a ton of your, the podcast and the clips, and super motivating and like fascinating points of view from people, or how to perceive different things. So I think that, you know, for you to look at it in a way of like, it's easier to look at it in a way of someone else's career and think that you didn't do enough. But the reality is, it's like, what's over? Like,
Yeah.
what? Nothing's over. Like, I'm 45, dude. It's not old, like, and it's continues, right? And the last thing I'll say, God, shut my mouth on this, is when I was retiring or getting ready to retire, kind of look at the EA slating and what's going on, new jobs or whatever. One of my sergeant majors said, no one in this hallway, no one here is going to remember you. They'll tell stories about you for a while, you know, and but think about it. We all leave, and a couple years, when all the guys who are here right now in this hallway, when the last guy leaves, the last time they'll know who you were in this hallway. And everybody you've ever served with and everything, they have a little bit of stories of you, but every unit you served in, what was your mark on that unit? The Army song is "The Army Goes Rolling Along" for a reason. No matter if you are a 1IC in A Squadron in Delta Force, the day you put it in your retirement packet, they will replace you with someone else just as qualified and just as good to be the 1IC of A Squadron in Delta Force. And that squadron will not say your name anymore when you leave there, when those guys are gone. And what that means isn't that it's not a like a hit on you or anything. What it means is, the people who remember you, the ones that will always remember you for everything you've ever did, are going to be your family and the people that are really important to you. They're the ones that are going to say your name and remember you for the rest of their lives. This hallway, this unit, these people, they're not going to remember you for the rest of their lives. It's just not. So it was basically kind of a thing of like, you did 20 years, man. I did 22 years in this thing. How much more are you going to sacrifice for your family and who you are as a dad and a husband for, the next man up game? So I was just kind of like, man, that makes a lot of sense. I totally get it. And it doesn't take away anything you did in your career, or the men you fought alongside of, or guys that got killed in combat or wounded, or any of those things. It just shows you that, you're part of the cog in the machine. We have the jokes, it's the Army, it's the same thing, and I think that it's so easy just to look at your career and forget that and just want more. And I think the reason why guys serve in certain units is because they have that ultimate drive to like play in the NFL, to win a Super Bowl, to the dreams that kids have. I mean, it's the same dream. It's just a different route of a dream, and I think that is something that really helped me transition into retirement, like willingly just like, yeah, okay, I see what it is now, like I totally get it. And that helped me a lot, like really let it all go, retire, and focus on what was not that my job wasn't important or the guys are important, but what's really important, my family and the people who are going to remember me and be there for me forever.
I think that's a good spot to call it. You are the second person in not a very many days to say the exact same thing to me. One, I think, was off recording, and I think it was from a 10th group guy. So whoever told you that told them that same
Probably
thing
did.
as well.
It was Paul Wiseman.
Yeah,
So
I
I
venture
don't
to
know.
say that it was the same wisdom being passed around the group.
Probably, but great piece of advice.
I got 5 questions here, man, and then I'll cut
Yes,
you
sir.
loose. What's your response to thank you for your service?
Oh, my honest response is no way, thank you. I had a blast. I got paid a lot of money to do a lot of cool things. And that's what I say to people. I say, thank you for saying that to me.
Positive message. Good.
Yeah.
Some people pick it apart and overcomplicate it, but everybody's just trying to be nice.
Yeah. Everyone's trying to be nice. They don't know. No one's trying to offend you or say anything weird.
What's the one characteristic that sets operators apart from the conventional forces?
I'm trying to think of what the character, like the word of the characteristic. Intestinal fortitude. It's all you. You're the only one out there. It's only you. No one's coming to save you. No one's coming to help you. No one's going to put the other foot in front of the other for you. You have to have the intestinal fortitude to train, to compete with yourself from the beginning to the end of the journey. You have to be the only one motivated and pushing yourself, and it has to come from you and you alone. It can come from your friends, but you have to have the intestinal fortitude to not be scared, to fucking charge into the swamp, to walk in the dark, to ruck at night, to believe in yourself, to shoot the asthma, to do everything you're doing. You have to have it in yourself. You have to have the intestinal fortitude to want to do it, and the courage to constantly pump yourself up. So I use the word intestinal fortitude because I can only think of like, it's all in your own, it's between all your own ears, man. And I think that regular military doesn't, they just don't have that mental toughness to be able to exuberate that.
What is the one moment of your career that you wish you could go back and relive or redo, and it wouldn't change where you are now?
So you said it wouldn't change where I am now.
Nope.
Nothing. Everything happened for a reason. God's got a plan. I'm not going to dissect that plan.
Okay. That's the first. What's the best
I made
piece
mistakes,
of advice?
you know?
Yeah.
No, I say I made mistakes, and it just seems like if I think about those mistakes or way to correct them or things that I've done, you know, I don't think I would. I don't know if I would made the proper decisions in the future. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Oh, it does.
Yeah.
No, everybody sees the question differently, and I'm going to get every answer for that question. Every answer is different. There's some variations on it, but they're all very different. So, all right, what is the best piece of advice that you received during your career?
The best piece of advice: you're a man before you're a soldier. I can kind of elaborate on it, but you know, when you wear, my dad told me this the day I left for the Army, for the regular Army after basic training. And he told me, you're a man before you're a soldier. You're a man first before you're a soldier. And your uniform is a symbol of that. You represent your country. It says United States Army on your chest. It also has your last name, and you represent your name and your family. You have a flag on your uniform that represents our country. You have a unit patch that represents your unit, and you have a rank to identify what you've accomplished or what rate, you know, what you've been doing. And but that name thing was so big for me as a kid, you know, doing chores around the house, it didn't matter. My dad was like, your fucking name is on it, you own it. You do a good job. And your reputation is everything. And my dad was really big on that. And he told me, you know, you're a man first. And what he said was, he's like, your last name is Wilber. You're a Wilber. Be Wilber. And sometimes people are going to test you. It doesn't mean to be a dirtbag. It doesn't mean to push back and resist everything. It means to not let people take away from you that you are a man. And there's been some times in my military career, that's why I got in trouble in 10th group, that I'm a man first before I'm a soldier. But I also, in that same right, my last name is on everything that I do. And I want people to know if I did it, I did a good job, that it's done correctly.
What were you afraid of then, and what are you afraid of now?
Dogs. Yep. Dogs. Terrified of fucking dogs. Grew up in and out of Indian reservations, dogs everywhere. Dogs are meaner and shit. And then I saw military dogs destroy people, rip them apart. They're scary as fuck. They never listen. They're running all over the objective. Yeah, dogs, dude. I'm terrified of fucking dogs.
Hey, for me, it's water I can't see through and tiny little fish. So fucking, I understand. Mine are kind of irrational. Well, the dark water one's not irrational. That's a fucking learned thing. But the little fish, I don't. Why do I should be scared of little fish? Got a bonus question. It's been percolating this whole time.
All right.
Do you think you were able to stay so fit and proficient because you didn't get injured, or did you not get injured because you stayed so fit and proficient? And how much of that was luck?
I didn't get injured because I stayed so physically fit. Um, I would say luck to when I classify injury though, I don't know if that means like battle injuries, right?
Well, anything can happen. I mean, you can
Right.
take a
That's what I mean.
round and be fucked
So
up.
obviously luck on the part of not, um, not being wounded in combat, not being blown up, not having, um, significant accidents like that. Just like every guy, I have all the overpressure issues and explosions from those kind of things, bad jumps and crashes and lots of brain trauma. But I've never, tore an ACL. I didn't hurt my back. I didn't do any of those things. I think all of the athletic related injuries that are possible during your career was because I did stay so physically fit. And then the luck part of, I didn't get blown up or was in the right vehicle and not the wrong one, I guess, or whatever, however that went, rolling dice with my friends. But yeah, very fortunate, very lucky that, I've never sustained any injuries from combat or on like the athletic, or however you would classify that, injuries.
Well, brother, I'm gonna admit it was an incredibly easy interview for me. I didn't talk a whole lot, and I was easy to keep you on track of where we were
I
going. It
appreciate it.
sounded, I got that you had some things you wanted to say, and I'm glad you
Yeah, no,
got
I
them
appreciate
out.
you.
At least that's what it
Yeah.
felt like to me
Yeah,
sitting
for sure,
here.
man. Heck yeah.
Thank you for telling me your story. How can everybody find you, War Party Movement, and War Party Ranch on the internets if they so
Yeah.
choose?
So, you can find me in my social media is Jeremiah_Blackbeard on Instagram, and then Instagram for War Party Movement. It's just War Party Movement. Instagram for War Party Ranch, same thing. And then websites. If you go to warpartymovement.com, there's links to all that. And then the warpartymovement.org is the website for War Party Ranch, the nonprofit side. Yeah. So, and, reach out to me anytime, whether it's you want to work together, you got something to say, you think I'm a faggot, don't like this interview, whatever, DM me, shoot me an email. But like I said, with the veterans and the War Party space, that warrior mindset, I mean, if that's something that's for you or a lady, or you want to help us put on a clinic or you got ideas or whatever, like, this is how we make things happen, and is for people reaching out and just saying, hey, I got an idea, or I know someone who needs help, or I've got a range you can use, or whatever. So please reach out to us, and we definitely thank you for all your support, and all the people out there representing War Party and helping us on our mission. It's super cool.
Yeah, man. I really appreciate you coming on. You got anything for me?
No, sir. Again, I appreciate you, brother. Thank you for what you're doing. Keep grinding. You have really cool message. All your guests are super cool. I hope I did some justice. You got some really cool guests, man. I'm like, oh shit. So thank you. It's an honor to be on your show, and I look forward to seeing what you bring in the future, man. Keep crushing it.
I appreciate it. Yeah, the honor's all mine. Bye, everybody.